The Galactic Soul, the Honorable Brother, the Revolutionary yourself, Darius Lockhart, and I'm here to tell you to watch Power Bombshells every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel. That's right, every Sunday at 1 p.m., and that's on time, every time, because when we stand together, what time is it? That's right, it's nation time.
Welcome to Power Bombshells 167. I'm Mel, that's Sam. We're just two broads talking about the wrestling we're watching and a lot of other crazy stuff that's going on this week.
For sure.
How's it going, Sam?
Well, I guess we'll just go ahead and address it. I am still stunned by the news that R-Truth is no longer with WWE. I got got sent to the group chat the tweet from R-Truth saying that he had just been released and that he said, I'm sorry to, this was at 11:12 a.m. So this is still pretty fresh news. He said, I'm sorry to inform you all, I just got released from WWE. I want to thank WWE for the ride, but mostly I want to thank each and every one of you who was along for the ride. Thank you for the love and support, and appreciation that you have given me over the years. Thank you. And so apparently his contract was coming due and they opted not to re-sign and told him this morning.
That is, pardon my French, bullshit.
I mean, fair enough.
This is one of the truest, most dedicated, like, the dude's done everything. He's done everything. He's been around forever. He hasn't aged in like 2 decades or some silly thing. Like,
he's done literally everything they have asked of him. They have made him like he was the. I wish I could remember the exact way he referred to it as, but he was the 24/7 champion.
The 24/7 thing.
It was a 24/7 like 7-Eleven. Like he had this long crazy name for it, and I believe he is the one who holds the most times holding that belt because it was transferred so many times. I believe he is I didn't think to look at it before we came on air to see how many times he actually held that title. And then of course, he literally just had a match with John Cena at Saturday night's main event. He was on Friday night's episode. He had a backstage segment with Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu and Jeff Cobb. And if it came from anybody else or R-Truth, it wouldn't have landed. It wouldn't have been as funny as it was. But R-Truth always just has this way of delivering these really insane things. Like he asked Solo Sikoa if Jeff Cobb was his son, and then he said, "Your son is husky." And he said, "Can I take your husky son with me to the ring? I have to show him something." Like, and then because I joked with my sister, I was like, "Listen, I love R-Truth. This is funny, but like on the other hand, like, is this what Jeff Cobb left New Japan for?" But going back to it, I'm sure Jeff Cobb is probably glad he got that moment because 48 hours later, R-Truth is no longer with the company. And somebody posted, they were selling these shirts because John Cena obviously has all the farewell merch, and there's one that has a drawing of him. And it says something like John Cena's farewell tour. Well, before the Saturday night's main event, R-Truth released a shirt with a drawing. It's the same shirt, but where it says John, there's a piece of tape over it. It says Ron. So it says Ron Cena farewell tour. And now this has happened. And it was like, did they know when they made the merch, like, hey, we're not re-signing him. Let's do this piece of merch. And I mean, maybe it's just coincidental, but also knowing the company that we know.
Yeah, it's hard to say that anything is coincidence with them usually. I mean, and they're never going to miss a chance to cash in on something. I mean, he took that ridiculous 24/7 thing and actually made it work. Like, just for that, he should get like a gold medal for WWE performer or something. Like, it's ridiculous. Yeah. Like, that was the silliest thing ever. And I'm sure that he will land on his feet and that he will get bookings and that he'll get lots of people because he's who he is and he's got so much experience. This is nuts.
Yeah, it is nuts. And yeah, and I make Peace is right. He's still over in 2025. He is still
Mhm.
super over with the crowd. He obviously just wrestled Cena. They did, I mean, yeah, the live crowd love Truth week to week. He gets clap every time. Yeah, and then like the other thing is like he was integral to this story with John Cena because obviously he's always had this, not always, but for years he's been doing the gimmick of where he's John Cena's biggest, like where he's basically John Cena's biggest fan, and all of these things that they've had. And so, and when John Cena turned heel, one of the things I said was to solidify this heel turn, he has to turn on R-Truth, like, because R-Truth is still that beloved that you have to do it. And they did eventually get there. And then and so now, like in hindsight, was this always the plan because they knew it would help get John Cena over as a heel, because it's not, his heel run is not working. Just it's awful. It's not working. But then
Shocker.
it's also maybe somebody was like, hey, R-Truth's contract is not coming up, or is coming up soon. We're not going to re-sign him. On his way out, let's give him this one match. It was a non-title match on top of that. Like John Cena didn't even put the title on the line. It was just a match because R-Truth pissed him off. And then of course he put R-Truth through the table in the press conference. And so you just wonder now, like, is it because that happened? And then, Nikki wonders if
want to look like total assholes, so they tried to make it look like they sort of gave him a send-off, fully knowing that they were gonna dick over him.
Yeah, I mean, they don't generally care that much about most people, so I'm thinking it's probably more of a coincidence than anything.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. That's my one thing that I would say is just the only reason that I would either they're trying to cover their own asses by trying to make it look like they gave him a proper send-off, even though that's ridiculous, or they just didn't care and it was just
it's not even like you just send him out, like
either way,
surprise him on a June 1st on a Sunday morning and just told him, like,
either way, this is BS, and this is pretty par for the course for that company. So
yeah, I mean this is coming on the heels of releases where women in particular are getting released because of their age. So R-Truth not getting re-signed, probably in large part due to his age, is unsurprising. And Brad makes the point that WWE not signing him to a Legends deal at least isn't surprising to me. He's not white or a woman. Wait, put that back up. That had possibly run in with Vince, sadly. And so, perhaps they do bring him back on a Legends deal at some point. Maybe once they see the fan outrage, they'll try to gloss it over. And also just the time, and I know the timing is probably more contract than anything, but with what we're getting ready to talk about, it's almost more of this, look over here, we released this beloved wrestler, not over here at what John Laurinaitis has done, and don't worry about Vince having a new company with corporate officer number 2. Look over here, R-Truth, and be outraged about that. Don't be outraged about this stuff. And I think it was probably the timing.
Perfect. I didn't even think about it, but you're right. This is like perfect timing for one of their like squirrel.
Yeah. It just I hate that for Ron Simmons. Ron Killings. He deserves so much better than that. What is this? Who knows? Does he go back to TNA as Ron Killings, because that's where he actually did some serious wrestling? He was. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he won a title when he was in TNA. He was a more serious wrestler. Obviously, a lot of us who were WCW fans knew him as K-Quick. That was our first introduction to him. And then obviously, and so I've loved watching his career for a long time. But he also represents my city. He's from Charlotte, and he has represented my city well for decades, and both in serious wrestling and also in just becoming this beloved person who will do anything that's asked of him. And I hate that this is the way his time ended there. I mean, like I said, maybe he goes back on a Legends deal. Maybe they eventually bring him on a Legends deal to retire, put him in the Hall of Fame at some point. Who knows? I don't know what's next for him, in part because of his age. I don't know, that he goes.
I know he works with the kids around here sometimes, and he does come in to do bookings. I think we might be seeing him around here during the summer. at some point towards the end. So this is just ugh.
Yeah. It's nasty work, but it's completely on brand.
But it's on brand.
Company does. They have done it time and time again, especially since January 2024. Since this lawsuit was filed and came to light, he's always done that. And Crash says, sounds familiar, the distraction tactic. Wonder where we see that happening like every day outside of the wrestling world. Right. Yeah, exactly. And I Make Beats, the TNA YouTube channel had an old pay-per-view marathon the other day, and they had a Truth on there. It was pretty cool to see him back then. Yeah, and I'm sure they'll be on it. Yes, and looks the same age. Yeah, that man has not aged in. I don't think his entire time I've watched him wrestle.
Yeah, he doesn't change. He looks exactly. He's like, yeah. I don't know how he does it, but keep doing it, man.
Yeah, right. He seems like a really good dude, and I hate this for him, and I hope he lands on his feet, whatever that is, even if it's just him doing cons and signings, and because I'm sure he would get a ton of people who would go stand in line to meet him if he goes the con route, or if he makes appearances on TNA or in the indies. Perhaps Tony even brings them in, not even signing in, but just brings them in for something. There's always that. once they come, I could see them. They love doing collisions the first weekend of January in Charlotte. Perhaps while everybody's in Japan for Wrestle Dynasty, they bring out R-Truth to have him on screen. Listen, they find ways to use Rock and Roll Express, so they might bring him in just to get a quick pop and let him come do something and get him a paycheck and send him on his way. But
oh Lord.
Yes. Yeah. I Make Beats. So Truth was inoffensive fun that fits well with WWE. It's ridiculous. Yeah, in that sort of WWE, R-Truth was the epitome of that. Yes, they do have a black heart.
They are black.
On that note,
I don't think they have a heart at all. But
no. On that note, I think that's the perfect segue to bring in our guest.
All right.
We are very lucky to have BJ with us today.
Speaking of black hearts.
No, that is not what I meant.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Only according to Twitter.
Only according to all of Twitter.
According to
according to wrestling social media.
Only according to Travelists who don't believe in ratings.
Or
only if you don't. Yeah, only if you get your news from a Reddit sub, I guess. I'll say this about Ron Killings. I think he would definitely fit in at AEW. I could definitely see Tony Khan signing him. I know he's 53, but he's in great shape. He's over. Plus, he doesn't have a WWE mentality. I think that's the thing with him. He's been in other companies. He's been much more successful. I don't think people remember this. A few months ago, he said he does not want to end his career coming out as the comedy guy. He wants to have a little bit of a more serious run to turn out his career. And I can tell you right now, there's a bunch of guys in AEW would love to work with him. And that's a possibility. TNA, of course. So I think there could definitely be something. He probably can't go like he used to, but at the same time, look at some of the 50-year-old guys that are in AEW now. They still go really well.
Right.
So
Fair.
hopefully he lands on his feet. I'm pretty sure he's going to get the chance he has at a serious run. I think he deserves it. And I think he's proven that over the years. I think you're going to see him have a big run somewhere. I think it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be fun when it happens too.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank goodness we live in a time when he can this isn't like the end. This isn't the punctuation mark on his career. There's possibilities.
It's not 2015 anymore. He could go other places and still make good cash and do what he wants to do. And that's the best thing about the industry right now.
Right. They could go and he can, not that it would be on the level of Sting, but he can go somewhere and have a proper ending to his career where people care about him and treat him well
and respect him.
Give him the send off that he wants, which it sounds like is to go out as a serious wrestler. Because a lot of people forget that there was that time especially in TNA where he was a serious wrestler. He's been this comedic wrestler for decades that a lot of people don't know him outside of R-Truth. They don't know about what Ron Killings did in TNA. They don't know even about the K-Quick stuff. They don't know him outside of WWE for decades, which is, one of the things about when you have just one company who dominates everything. Like you don't get.
That's one thing I liked about his matchup with Cena, and in the way they made it so high profile, was that I was listening. I work with some WWE fans I know, and they were just like, "Well, I didn't know this, but Ron Killings, R-Truth, was the first Black NWA champion."
Mm-hmm. He was.
I didn't know this, but he was like a superstar in TNA. Like they started hearing more stuff about him, and I think just that, I think a lot of it just goes to his talent. He's been able to like stay over in his lower card committee grow, and he's so good at it. He overshadows people who are more serious, people in the main event. And it's like, just to be, it's like, I think a good portion of that story would have been like a pull of Tommy Rich and have him upset Cena. Give him the title for a few weeks. What's it going to hurt? I mean, it'd be more exciting in what they're doing now, but
for sure. Yeah. Cause now we're getting John Cena teaming up with Logan Paul versus Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso at Money in the Bank.
That's he needs heat so bad they put him with Logan Paul. That's pretty.
Yes, that's
sad.
Exactly what. And so Logan Paul can take the pin in the match, and then John Cena can turn on him after their little. This is a match they've built in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it seems very familiar to me. It seems like very 2018, 2019. And this is what people were mad at AEW doing 2 years ago, and now it's the other company doing it. Everybody has their ups and downs, and right now they just got thrown, and they're kind of in a loop. So we'll see what happens.
I was
Thank
told
you, Collins. Thank you for dropping by.
Thank you, Collins. Seriously.
And thank you for the love.
But I was told that Paul Levesque was a wrestling genius and that he would be the greatest booker of all time.
Yeah. I mean, everybody, I saw Levesque's career from the mid-90s on. I mean, let's just say he's another guy, and that doesn't mean anything good or bad. To make it in the wrestling industry at all, you got to be very talented. But he was helped a lot by who he married. And I think he did a really good job booking Cody and all that, but a lot of it came out of necessity, and there's nothing wrong with that. He knew they needed a hot storyline, and they did it. I think the fall off's been, I think there was a little bit of a fall off once Cody became champ. It's like they wanted to keep the focus on the bloodline, not him. I think the farther they get away from Cody, if you notice, things get worse storyline wise. It's like that's the guy's your star. Yeah. That's the guy you should be putting the focus on.
Right. And, Cody just returned last week. He returned at Saturday night's main event. That's what set up this match. And to get Cody back in it, he's here with Jey Uso, which obviously they have a part of their storyline has been their friendship. And so he's helping him. Yeah. And then, so Cody's kind of back in the fold, and you can see the reaction that Cody gets. Like, he got a huge pot. He showed up on SmackDown Friday night, and like people were singing his theme song like they did when he was in Europe. Like, you can tell the difference is night and day in the way that Cody is a star. Like, he's huge and he's undeniable. I mean, I think that he says, he went from undesirable to undeniable, and he is undeniable to WWE, and they're what they need for him right now. And so
it's going to be interesting to see how this works, because Cody's very much aware of who he is and what his value is. And WWE never seems to understand the value of their wrestlers. So we'll find out how that works out.
Yeah. Well, since we have you here,
this is what we're really here to talk about.
I know the R-Truth. I told you the R-Truth was a distraction. They're like, let's talk about this, which we can
even worked on us. Dang it.
Get you a podcast that can do both. We will talk about the things like this, but we will talk about the serious things. And luckily, we have people like BJ to bring on to talk about this thing. And I know that, and we want to be, mindful of your time that you are giving us today.
That's okay. Thank you.
And yes, and thank you to everybody in the chat. I know that you guys said hello, and we kind of went right into the R-Truth stuff. So thank you to everybody who was here with us today, and thank you for those of you who are giving us a chance, because BJ, and you wanted somebody quote tweeted us on Blue Sky and said that BJ was the only person they trusted with this information. So which again, we're glad BJ is here, and if you are here because BJ is here, welcome. Thank you for tuning in today and giving us a chance so that you can hear BJ. We hope that you will stick around and stick with us afterwards. But if not, we're glad you're here for this. But so earlier this week, I guess this was Wednesday, we got the I would say bombshell news. I don't think that's a hyperbolic way to phrase this.
No, it's not.
The Janel Grant's team filed a stipulation for dismissal with prejudice against John Laurinaitis in relation to her lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE. The dismissal, because of the dismissal, that means that John Laurinaitis is no longer a defendant in Janel Grant's lawsuit. The lawsuit is now just against Vince McMahon and WWE. And John Laurinaitis has agreed to help Janel Grant's team. So can you kind of talk to us about what this means and what you think this could mean for Janel Grant's lawsuit?
Well, it means that Laurinaitis, he was a defendant. He was one of 3 defendants. He was charged in sex assault, sex trafficking. Janel Grant. He's now flipped. He's agreed to the settlement with Janel, which probably cash money, something like that. Also, he's agreed to testify and provide evidence on behalf of Janel when they go to trial, if they go to trial, through discovery process like that. This isn't like a complete surprise this happened, because in the very early days of the complaint, he was saying he was also a victim too, especially when he was with his first attorney. He was a victim. He was also a victim. He was trying to work with Janel's team on, basically that. They didn't agree with that, but obviously over the last year and a half or so, they've come to terms on an agreement. This comes right before the deadline for the arbitration motion.
Right.
That everybody keeps expecting WWE and Vince to file, but they haven't filed yet. They got till June 13th. I know there's a lot of people asking questions why they haven't filed yet, but there's a lot of different reasons that could be the case. But this is definitely huge news. It's kind of it's the best. There's a lot of things that's going to come up out of this. I think one of them was brought up by Dave Meltzer in a newsletter this week, and that is, if you look back to the timing of Janel Grant getting promoted and John Laurinaitis being made the head of talent relations in WWE. At the time, a lot of the thought was Paul Levesque, Triple H, was being demoted because of NXT. Maybe there was some truth to that. I don't know. But it also questionably comes into when Vince was really wanting to make sure they were both in the same floor in the office with him when all of this bad stuff was going on, even in the office. And
so it essentially
potentially massively damaging. I to me, the big takeaway from this is, if once Laurinaitis starts providing testimony and evidence, obviously we don't know what's going on with the federal criminal case, but there's also state and local authorities that could get involved here. What happens with them? Where are they at? McMahon's very powerful in Connecticut. Maybe that's a reason why law enforcement hasn't gotten involved. I don't know, but this is also a case that goes beyond the borders of Connecticut. A lot of it took place in New York. That's where the criminal investigation by the feds was taking place. This could open a lot of doors for Janel Grant's team. It could also open the doors to seeing some potential prosecution at local and state levels. But yeah, I think it was a bombshell. I mean, it's not completely unexpected. I think it doesn't surprise me that it happened. Another thing Dave brought up was that he believes this means they think they're taking us all the way to trial, because there would have been there would have been no reason for John to, there'd been no reason for Laurinaitis to not let this carry past the arbitration hearing, because he doesn't have any stake in that, but it could end the case. Well, obviously this is probably a sign that they don't think they're going to win the arbitration motion, which I kind of doubt that they would. They have a good argument, Vince's lawyers do, about the legislation on when it comes to arbitration and NDAs and these kind of cases. But it's definitely a signal that this looks like it's going to be going the long haul.
Right. And because like you said, they haven't filed for the defendants have not filed for, to try to take this back to arbitration, which they did have until, June 10th, June 13th, somewhere June 13th, right in there. And then the judge had also set a date for Janel's team to go back, and she could go back and file against that once that's done. And so to have this come before both of those things definitely sounds like, do you feel like John Laurinaitis is doing this because he felt like they weren't going to get arbitration and they were going to trial, and he's basically trying to save himself? Or do you feel, or is it just he had an attack of conscience and is
I think
trying
he took
to...
what was the best deal for him at the best time.
Right.
I think that's what he did, and I think he's been trying to get out of this from the beginning. They fired him and were trying to throw him under the bus for this entire incident.
Yep.
I mean, he does have kind of a case to make that he's partially a victim in this too. I guess you could say that. I don't really buy that based on what I've read in the complaint. Maybe John's got other evidence that's contrary to that.
Right.
But the allegations as they are, this is pretty damaging. I just think that, I think this is what I think they've been working on this probably for a while, or at least probably talking back and forth. I mean, John initially didn't want, he wanted to file as a victim too. And then,
I remember.
And it seems like some of the heat on Vince was taken away, as you see, because nobody knows what's going on with the criminal investigation.
Right.
Vince's side, and it seems to be that the feds aren't pursuing it anymore, and that would make sense because Donald Trump's president, and they're not pursuing against a lot of rich, famous people. That's kind of Trump's MO. So,
right, especially when he has Trump as a WWE Hall of Fame member,
when they're bros already.
Well, like his, Vince's wife or separated wife. She's the head. She's the Secretary of Education.
Right.
She was his campaign manager,
she ran PACs for him. And it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. Trump has a love for people that are famous and rich. And he's
forgiving affluenza right now.
Yeah, and if you're famous, you're rich, you're a politician, you got some power. He wants to have some edge on you, and he also kind of admires the celebrity. He loves that. I mean, we just had we have a council member in Cincinnati, PG Sittenfeld, who was convicted of federal crimes for bribery, and he was just sentenced last year, and Trump just pardoned him, and he's a Democrat.
Yeah, they're about to pardon the DFs who tried to kidnap and hold hostage our governor here in Michigan.
Yeah, which is insane.
Which is another giant F you to women in general, but also was like, are you kidding?
Yeah,
it's bad.
And Whitmer even tried to collaborate a little with the administration on trying to get some things done for her state, and then
she has to because of the nutballs here, unfortunately, because there's a lot of this place is purple, but the red can get really strong here. Clearly, since the guy in charge won our state, unfortunately.
Yeah, right. But I think that with you can't pardon anybody in a civil case. You can't pardon anybody on state and local charges. This is a big deal. So if something happens state and local, Trump isn't going to be able to put his hand into it. He could probably apply some political pressure, and I'm sure that a lot of people with money on his side would try to do that. Right. But I think that's going to be coming at some point. I don't know how it can be ignored. Maybe Vince has something evidence-wise that would keep him from getting prosecuted. I don't know, but we'll find out.
But you can't an NDA is irrelevant if somebody broke the law.
Yes. That's another thing.
The whole thing in contracts is even if I sign a contract, I can't sign my rights away. If somebody is criminally negligent, that contract becomes moot.
Yes.
Because they committed a crime.
Which is why I think that you're seeing. I don't think WWE or Laurinaitis or Vince thought that arbitration motion was going to go through. I think they felt that when they have the hearing, that they're going to be like, okay, yeah, you're right. The legislation on this only covers NDAs and arbitration clauses signed like in pre-hiring situations, but this is still criminal. Right. You can't use it to cover up criminal stuff. And you go back to a lot of NDAs in WWE history. That's kind of what they did. And it's, explain to people what's going on in the history of this case and or just with the history of the company and how it's operated. I mean, pro wrestling was scummy business with a lot of payoffs to officials and crazy stuff like that. They'd pay off, and this was nothing that was different or new, but a lot of this is kind of that mentality just having to run into the 21st century.
Yeah. And, you go back and say, we were talking about the NDAs and how those are typically signed, prior to hiring. But Janel Grant's NDA, from what she says, was forced on her, several years into her employment there, and she had to use, it was just the NDA came together. It was just basically cobbled together. On top of that,
though. Didn't he
Vince
not
and
even
him signed it? The argument between those two sides has been who violated it first. I mean, there's some, Vince has a case to make as far as the NDA goes because of just the way federal law is written and things like that. But everybody has a case. But at the same time, it's like you look at these allegations and how they came unfolded and why they wanted her to sign the NDA. Well, then that starts to come apart. So
she signed it under duress, which makes it automatically.
Yeah.
I mean, right there alone, which
that's been one argument Vince's team has been making, and Jessica Rosenberg, they've been making this when they have put out statements, is that she wasn't under duress, she was a girlfriend. She didn't do anything against her will, which because that's been the thing they've been fighting the most is this. They're trying to Janel says she's a victim of all this terrible stuff that happened, and Vince and his attorneys and stuff have been trying to say nope, she was a willing participant. So because of the duress notion, that's one reason why you're hearing so much of that argument, because obviously if it's happened under duress, it's a crime, and it doesn't matter if it's a civil or criminal court. It's that NDA is not going to hold up, at least if under those circumstances. Now, if the court sits there and looks and believes, oh yeah, she was we got evidence that she wasn't under duress at all, things like that. Well, then that changes how they may rule in an arbitration hearing. But I just think this is a massive blow up in this case. I think when you have anytime you have a defendant that flips like this, especially one who's like so central to the allegations, it's a huge deal. Whether people thought it was coming or not. I mean, I didn't think it was coming because it'd been a year and a half and been that long.
Right.
We haven't heard anything much from the feds on the criminal front, and a lot of people think their case is closed, and I haven't confirmed that through anybody on the Fed side, and Vince's side said that repeatedly, as well as some people have reported it. But I mean, if that's the case, why flip? But I think it's just on first, but I think a lot of us is like Laurinaitis is like, what's he got to lose as far as like financially, and I mean, the company fired him and tried to throw him under the bus for this entire incident. Obviously, he has some responsibility, and he's admitted that because he agreed to a settlement.
Right.
And so this really changes the whole scope of this. It puts a lot more of the focus on WWE and Vince McMahon. I think it's going to be interesting because if this goes the way Dave and others believe, and this is the way Janel Grant's team has said from the beginning, we want to go to trial on this. This isn't about a settlement. We want to put some sunshine on this entire situation. Yeah, discovery. And right now, I know that I think the last time, I think in their schedule 26F motion, I think when they requested they go through they wanted Crush to set up for a schedule. In Discovery, they wanted to depose like 45 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
The plaintiffs do, which means that would almost include the entire C-suite. That would include wrestlers probably. That would include a ton of WWE and TKO people. That would include probably people who lived in the apartment building. That would probably, that's a big list. And that's just, those are video depositions that'll be on tape. So if they go to trial and they get that number, that's going to be a lot of people on a record, and you're swearing on an oath.
Right. I mean, right. That's contempt. You don't want to mess around with that.
Yeah. I mean, then obviously, if you just read the complaint, the names are popping up all over that complaint. It'd be Paul Levesque, Stephanie McMahon, Brad Bloom, Nick Khan would definitely be a name on there.
Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah.
I mean, Stephanie McMahon is in there too. I mean, there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, now we know we've got Michael Hayes
who have been named in there essentially because you guys have been really.
And now you've got but they also in the amended lawsuit that was accepted just a few weeks ago, Brock Lesnar was officially named in that lawsuit.
Yeah, he would definitely be somebody to be testifying. Yeah, he would have to
Michael
testify.
Hayes is in that lawsuit, so it's his crew, and they can
identify because he got the text messages.
Right, and so he was showing the crew underneath him, so they can get the identities of those crew, according to what's out there, so there's members of that crew that can testify whether they saw these photos without her knowledge. I mean, these are all things that they're going to want to talk about. And so since there is obviously, even if if arbitration is declined once again, it will probably, I would think, most likely be a while before they would set any type of decide to go to trial. Would that be correct?
Yeah, there'd be a lot of motions. There'd be a lot of negotiation on what each side wants to have in discovery. What do they agree on? I mean, this will be a long process. I mean, I don't see it getting done this year.
It's not because John Laurinaitis has suddenly flipped. They're not going to
they're not going
to trial.
I mean, they're still probably going to fire an arbitration motion. I just think that I'm curious why they waited so long. Maybe they expected John to flip. I don't know, but I mean, there's a lot of reasons outside of that too, because there's the shareholder lawsuit that's going on where they're pursuing evidence about
the money. It's always about the money.
Yeah, the shareholder lawsuit.
They can still get him on the money. You can't mess with the market.
But
but they're in discovery. That could cross over between both the Janel Grant case and the shareholder case.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's all depending on how the judge rules the scope of discovery will be, and depending on that would depend on both cases. It also depend on how federal, because the shareholder suit is in the Delaware Court of the Chancery, which is kind of almost like a business corporate court, and then obviously the Janel civil suits in federal court. But there's usually, the federal rules of evidence and most states' rules of evidence are pretty similar, where you can take things from ongoing cases and discovery and use that as evidence, depending on what the scope is set by the judge. So that would have a lot. Whether the shareholders could do that, it'd have to a lot depend on who the judge is in that case.
Right.
So that's another potential reason why they may not, because the last time they had an arbitration hearing coming up because first of all, how this process works. So NDA says that if there's any dispute, you go to an arbitration hearing, which is where WWE sets up this thing. You meet in a room and you kind of negotiate. Obviously, Janel's side, citing federal law, citing rules against NDA in cases of sex trafficking and sex assault, they're going to say, no, we don't follow that. And that's kind of where federal legislation and most precedent in court has been the last 10 years, has been to kind of kick those out. But anyway, they're still going to have a motion hearing. They have another judge sitting over that, and that will have its own set of discovery, probably, most likely, because this is what happened last time when they were getting ready to set this up. They were getting ready to move into discovery mode for they're getting ready to start doing discovery for the arbitration hearing, and that's when the federal prosecutor stepped in and said, "Hey, this could possibly interfere with our federal criminal investigation. We want to put on a stay on the case," and that's why the case paused for 6 months.
Sense.
So anything that was used in that arbitration hearing is discovery, which would be relatively a lot sooner than you would see for a trial. That could be possibly used in a shareholder suit, depending on how the judges and the rules of evidence are as far as that is concerned. And a lot of it's going to be dependent upon how the judge in this shareholder case will set up discovery, and how they will, what's the scope? Where are you allowed to put it in as evidence? Where are you allowed to get evidence? And one of the main factors in the complaint the shareholders have is that, he was looking for a deal that would allow him to keep his job, not based because of all the sexual misconduct allegations and possible charges that lurked. So that's a big key to their case. So it's definitely a possibility you'll see this stuff leak over into that case. And I think that's one reason maybe they haven't filed an arbitration motion yet. I don't know. But I think it's coming. I think it's just they're probably figuring out how they're wanting to do this. I mean, maybe they were waiting to see what happened with Laurinaitis. I don't know.
Right.
But they got till June 13th, and that date's rapidly closing. That date is rapidly approaching. Yeah, and they keep saying they are filing. So
it's a Friday. I'm looking at the calendar real quick. It's a Friday. I wonder if they wait until Friday to do it because Friday news dumps. I mean, that's classic.
It's a possibility. I mean, I don't think that's a big enough. It's so expected, and it happened in the last case. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I think it's definitely. They'll probably wait till the last minute. I think they're going to stretch it out as long as they can, just for strategic purposes, and because of the case, it could end up in a shareholder suit. I mean, all of that even depends on what happens in that case. I mean, all this, what I'm saying could be completely moot. They may not allow any of that.
Right.
But it just
Does
that's more complications.
Any of this information, and I know it's a different lawsuit and it's in the state of Maryland, but how does any of this affect the Ring Boys lawsuit? Like, can any of what comes out potentially affect them, or is it hard to just say until we know what the information is?
I mean, it could. It depends on what the evidence is, and it depends on what the scope of discovery is in the Ring Boy suit. I mean, right now, those are two different kinds of. Those are two different kinds of. Those are two really different types of lawsuits. The Maryland suit, the Ring Boy suit, that has 8 plaintiffs right now and seems to be growing. At least they just added 2 to that. Pat Patterson's name was also tossed in there. That case is basically a negligence case where they're accusing WWE, TKO, Linda McMahon, and Vince McMahon of negligence because they knew this stuff was going on with the Ring Boys, and they just ignored it, and they didn't take proper care to take care of it. This is a case that before they wouldn't have been able to file because of statutes of limitations rules in Maryland, but they had a new law that came out a couple of years ago that took off negligence, statute of limitations on negligence cases based on like these kind of circumstances with assault and trafficking, things like that. So we had to wait for the Supreme Court in Maryland to decide if they could even hear that case. And apparently there was like 40, 50, 60, 70 cases that were lined up waiting to hear what this decision was. One of them was the Ring Boy suit. So they've decided, this can move forward. So now it's moving into this step. And it depends on what comes up as evidence. It depends on what the Ring Boys decide to use. It's such a different case. I don't know how much they could possibly use, but it could have a factor. I don't know. I just right now it's a negligence case. This is a completely different court, civil rights court question case. Right. I mean, it could. My gut feeling would be I don't think so, but that doesn't mean that you won't see the plaintiff not try, or the plaintiffs not try.
Right, for sure. Thank you, Lady B. We appreciate.
We like having BJ here to help out and talk about it because this is crazy. I mean, this is wild. It's a really big turning point in this case because it does really change everything. It throws everything way up into the air. I mean, now you said that Dave thinks that they could actually see trial at this point.
He thinks, from what he was kind of just giving analysis of it, but his analysis was, because why would he not wait for the arbitration motion and hearing? Because he has nothing to lose in that. Fair. And that could decide all this. If it goes to arbitration,
right?
And obviously he doesn't see a settlement happening. He thinks this is a sign that this is going to go all the way. Or at least Laurinaitis believes this is all going to trial. Because obviously he's providing testimony. He's already agreed to a settlement, and he's turning on Vince and WWE.
And I would assume that in order to hold up his end for the settlement, he has to, it's not like he can get this money and then be like, change my mind again. Like, he has to legally provide this information, correct?
He might have already done a deposition with them. They may have already had something agreed. They may have already agreed to.
I would do that before I made a settlement anyway, because there's no way I would settle with him because settlements have, they have gray area where some settlements can have gray area where you could actually do what you just said, which is be like, just kidding. I'm not. Yeah. I mean,
but he's already done it before. And I still think, obviously, I think a lot of us have come to the same conclusion that the only reason he flipped to begin with is because Vince's people got to him and convinced him, come over here and we'll go to arbitration and we'll win this, and then we don't go to trial and it's okay. And then maybe Laurinaitis' team was saw the writing on the wall and was like, you know what? Let's see what we can do with Janel Grant's team, and maybe we've got information. And of course, Jessica Rosenberg's statement on Friday was basically throwing John Laurinaitis' words right back into his face. Hang on, I've got the quote here. Let me get to it. But she used his words against him because he had. She said, Jessica Rosenberg says, today's dismissal of John Laurinaitis as a defendant doesn't alter the facts of this case in any way. Vince McMahon never mistreated Janel Grant. No matter how many press releases her team issues, the truth remains unchanged. As Mr. Laurinaitis' lawyer previously said, Mr. Laurinaitis corroborates Mr. McMahon in publicly declaring that Ms. Grant's allegations of sexual abuse and coercion in her complaint are completely unfounded, which was what when he flipped on her last May, those were the words he used. So they, of course, used that right back on him. And so, that I'm not surprised that that's the argument that they're going with. It's like, oh, well, John Laurinaitis already said, that she wasn't telling the truth. So don't believe him. Don't believe anything he puts out there. And then I didn't read this before, but both BJ and I received a statement it was a joint statement from Janel Grant's team and John Laurinaitis' team. It says John Laurinaitis has agreed to cooperate, provide evidence in Janel Grant's lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE. His agreement to a confidential settlement is a pivotal next step forward, holding McMahon and WWE accountable and bringing justice to Miss Grant. After years of sexual abuse and trafficking, Mr. Laurinaitis looks forward to moving on with his life. We cannot provide any additional details at this time. So that's, where we are. And then right within, what was this, Friday, or maybe it was Thursday, we found out that Vince McMahon and corporate officer number 2, Brad Bloom, are working together. And that Vince has launched a new business venture called 14th and I, which has, I guess, I don't know if it's sentimental, because I don't know how sentimental.
That's the former address of Capital Wrestling, which was Vince's senior's company when it was headquartered in Washington, D.C.
In D.C.
I was like,
when I
read
that, I had flashbacks.
Maybe it's some kind of a FU to his dad, for all I know. I feel like that's probably more likely than sentimental reasons. But this firm is pursuing opportunities in sports, media, and entertainment. The companies are, I believe the LLCs were formed in Delaware, and they list the same Stamford, Connecticut address as the principal office, according to Brandon Thurston's reporting. And corporate officer number 2, Brad Bloom, is the president of this new venture. I don't think we really know what this is. Do you have any ideas, kind of like what he hopes to be doing with 14th and I, other than?
I had somebody I talked to who's in the TV industry, and they were like, when the heck does this even mean? Because are they going to give out, is he a loan shark? What, it's this corporate bobbledygook. When he said that, I started laughing, because I'm like, this is definitely kind of it sounds like it's kind of maybe a private equity kind of hedge fund setup where he's wanting to invest in other people's property. I don't know how successful this would be. The fact that Bloom's the guy as the president kind of tells me that Vince probably had difficulty finding other people who wanted to join in on his venture, which surprise. Surprise.
The man currently named in 3 different lawsuits.
Yeah, the guy's been sued by his shareholders probably once a year for the last 20 years, I think. I mean, I don't know how many shareholder lawsuits there have been against WWE, but there's been a ton. I mean, he's also not had any success outside WWE as far as business goes.
True.
I mean, he's been great at making it into a $1 billion company, but he's not had success elsewhere. You're also looking at a time of significant, massive media upheaval. I mean, maybe this is something to keep him busy. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Kind of weird like that. When you say that, it actually, when I was thinking about it, I was like, is this just his last grasp at trying to be relevant and trying to feel like he has any power at all? And
this is it's funny you say that, because Whitesell just left Endeavor and TKO to split off and do his own investment firm, and there was some rumor that I asked that, a couple of people asked me, and they said, do you think Whitesell's doing something with Vince? And I'm like, I don't see why they would. But then Vince's little company pops up, and it's basically the same thing Whitesell's trying to do, except Whitesell just ain't to deal with Peyton Manning and Omaha Productions for $800 million or something ridiculous.
Maybe they're looking for some kind of blockbuster team up with the branding and so forth, because Vince could essentially invest using his name, and I hate it, but his name still resonates with a certain group of people. in sporting, and it always
Yeah.
is going to, no matter how crappy of a person he is, clearly. But I mean,
the thing is, I think people inside the wrestling industry don't understand just how big of a clown show they see pro wrestling. I think they also underestimate just the business in total, and I think they also misunderstand just how big of a carny they see Vince McMahon. I mean, Donald Trump was ruled untouchable by Pete Rozelle in the early '80s, and I mean, and
that
Vince,
guy wasn't exactly the guy that you would want to go to for advice on such things.
You know, and Vince has kind of been the same way. He's wanted to be more legitimate. He's always wanted to. He's really pushed trying to get WWE to win an Emmy, but it's at the same time he's done everything counter to being what people in the real business world would like to see. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. Maybe I imagine if he's got something like this already planned out, he's already got how much money he's wanting to invest. What he's maybe even has people already lined up that are looking to, try to, make deals with him. Brandon's article was really good. It got to some really good details.
Yeah,
he had the scoop and the exclusive on it. Yeah, so he deserves all the credit to that.
Yeah, because it makes it sound just literally like I almost did it, venture capital firm.
It's very much that. It's a venture capital.
I almost said vulture, but
and it's just like, I mean, people, and when it's funny when you talk to people who don't know what venture capital is and they read it, they're like, yeah, was this a loan shark? It's like, well,
I mean, it's
a bookie. I mean, I'm not making fun of Vince's company here on this point. I'm just trying to I'm talking about venture capital and private equity in general. It's like when you start it's like when you remember Trading Places with Eddie Murphy.
Yes.
And they explained to him what it is they do as shareholders and stockholders in an investment firm. He goes, "Oh, you guys are just a couple bookies." And the one brother looks at the other. See, I told him he'd get it. I told you he'd get it. He understands this perfectly.
Right. This mirrors the insurance agencies or insurance market too, because that's just a big tax shelter. If you're rich enough, you can, in the insurance industry, it's like you can hide your money, like tax free, and borrow.
This could be a way of him trying to limit
for zero
settlement.
That was my guess when I heard about this. I was like, is this just protection because he is if he owes people settlements that this is where it's going to come from?
I
can't imagine. He gets a liability buffer with those LLCs. Plus, they're in Delaware, which is where every bazillionaire goes to start their LLC or their super PAC because Delaware decided they were going to make money off of being essentially a haven for.
Which is where these three
it's a Swiss bank account
LLCs with this company, and that's where they were filed, was in Delaware.
As I was saying earlier today, the joke from Wayne's World holds up because it's Delaware. Nobody knows about it or thinks about it except people who are engaged in. I mean, that's where every super PAC is.
There's very friendly terms to organize.
Very friendly, LLCs, considering how hard it is to start a nonprofit in general. Yeah. It's so lovely how nice they are about it.
Yeah, the thing is with Vince, though,
with enough money,
that I cannot imagine he's a billionaire several times over. Yeah. I mean, they could. I can't imagine him suffering so many damages that it would possibly force him to hide some money in an LLC. I mean, you're talking you're talking $9-10 billion in damages. I mean, I don't think that's getting into Pfizer territory.
Yeah.
Maybe it does happen. I mean, you go back 40 years, there's a lot of history there, and a lot of it's bad, but to me, I don't think that's probably. I think he's just trying to look for a way to stay relevant, and this is kind of the new hip thing. And he's like, okay, I want to try to so that I can be a success at this. I'm not just the wrestling guy, and and he probably
he went to that basketball game and they put former wrestling promoter Vince McMahon, and I'm sure that ate at him.
Oh, I'm sure
that's what he was referred to as, former wrestling promoter.
Well, there's always talk of. I heard I think it was Sportskeeda had a story out, and this was the same day as the story on John Laurinaitis came out. Him flipping was that he was possibly looking to buy back WWE from TKO.
Where that came from was Jonathan Coachman speculating on his podcast because Jonathan Coachman has nothing else to talk about and he wants to stay relevant. And Sean, I thought I had saved it, but Sean Ross Sapp like broke down like why Vince McMahon cannot buy back WWE. Yes. And there was very like I thought I saved it.
Sean did a very good job of that.
Of explaining like there's no way
I read that too.
that he can. It's not happening. And then Sportskeeda ran with that saying they had a source.
Well, Bill Apter was also the same guy who thanked Triple H for thanking Vince during his Hall of Fame. I'm like, Bill, give me a break.
Right.
But you know, that's why they get to ask 3 questions in every press conference and nobody else gets to ask any, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just pandering.
Yeah, and there are some questions we'll get to. But speaking of, since we're going to talk about people who have been saying things like Jonathan Coachman, we also had the day that John Laurinaitis came out that they were going to flip, Teddy Long went on his own podcast and once again defended Vince McMahon. He has defended him. He defended him right after this came out, and he is still doing it. And so I have the quote here, and he said that if what we just heard, if this is all true, he just turned on the man that made him somebody. He was nothing until he came to work for Vince. Vince put him in charge of talent relations, gave him a bunch of power and stuff, and he abused that power because I was there and I was one of those guys he abused. Long stated that he wouldn't say too much to avoid involvement, but affirmed what I'm saying is the truth. But then he further criticized Laurinaitis' perceived disloyalty by saying, if you don't care nothing about the man that he worked for and made him what he is today, then you know damn well he didn't care nothing about me. When Davis suggested that Laurinaitis was taking a deal to get out of trouble, he called him Long agreed and called him a coward. And he also called him a stooge. So we still have, and we're going to keep seeing this. We've seen it since the day this lawsuit was filed, that people, I wouldn't be anything without Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon made me, so I'm not going to say anything bad about him. And so Teddy Long is still doing things. And sure, and both things can be true. John Laurinaitis could have been drunk on power and abused that power and treated Teddy Long horribly.
He did. And he was terrible at his head. He was terrible as head of talent relations. I mean, and another thing Dave mentioned this week is that Vince settled a $1.5 million lawsuit involving Laurinaitis back when he was head of talent relations in the early 2010s, and that led to him being demoted the first time. So, yeah, that both of those things can be true, but also I just don't see that. Calling him a coward or a stooge. I mean, they fired him and then we're trying to throw him under the bus. And I mean, he's doing what he has to do.
He lost everything. He lost his marriage on top of it. And I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve it because, and nobody is saying that just because John Laurinaitis is doing the right thing, which whether it's for personal, because he's trying to save his own skin, we're not stupid. But if it is, and nobody's giving him a pass just because he is going to be helping Janel Grant. All of those things. John Laurinaitis still did all the things, has alleged to have done all of these things to her. And that doesn't absolve him of that just because he could potentially help, put Vince McMahon away.
Yeah.
These people all sound like abuse survivors. That's what they all sound like.
Basically, that's what the wrestling business is.
They're trauma-brained abuse survivors who
That's a great way of putting it.
They're literally they're putting their abuser on a pedestal. That's classic, untreated, what happens to survivors.
But the thing is, too, is that now that there's no, now that we may not have a criminal case, it's safe to praise Vince and think he's great, and because he may give you one last paycheck at some point, which is utterly ridiculous to think about. I mean, he doesn't own a wrestling company.
F about them.
No,
and he's earned a lot of loyalty for stuff that I don't understand, but
agree.
I mean, Laurinaitis' history in the wrestling business is pretty complicated, but it goes a lot further back than that. But I mean, he was with WCW, he was with All Japan, but I just I think this. I mean, they also they fired him over this Grant scandal. After the stockholder investigation, they fired him, he got fired, he got canned, and he got thrown under the bus for the whole thing. So I don't see why it's, wow, you're calling him a stooge. Well, he got fired over this. It doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, he's doing what's in his best interest, which is exactly what Vince has always done.
Right.
It's like,
who do you think he learned it from?
yeah, I mean, he's just doing exactly what Vince was doing. It's just like they're doing what everybody's doing what's in their own best interest, and
right, exactly.
And I think if there's anybody who's not doing anything in her own best interest, it's probably Janel Grant. She could have very easily taken a settlement at this point and bowed out. Instead, she's taking the heat online and taking the heat elsewhere and taking the heat from the wrestling business. And she's pushing this thing, and there's people helping her do it. And she wants us to go to trial. She doesn't want anybody to have to suffer what she had to suffer with. And I think that if there's anybody who's doing this out of reasons that aren't selfishly motivated, it's Janel. Yeah, she's probably going to end up with a big settlement out of this, but she's also going through a year and a half of grief.
She's a victim.
Yeah, I was going to say, knock on wood, and assuming all of the things that she says, alleges in this lawsuit happened, then that's the least of what she deserves.
Yeah, I mean,
this isn't, no amount of money is going to make her whole again. No. This is going to affect her entire life, every relationship she has, every job she has to. If she, they should have to make her whole. They should have to pay for the disgusting thing. If what's alleged in that lawsuit is true, it isn't even about money. This is about making sure that those people, and especially Ms. McMahon, never gets to walk around amongst us civilians ever again without paying for it in some way.
And she's also the public face of, because we know there's multiple NDAs, and from other women, we obviously know the case with with Ashley Massaro, and Janel Grant has been the only one who has been able to come this far and do what she's done. And you and I have said this since day. I mean, I've said this even since covering Vince's NDAs before this lawsuit even happened. This is just what we know about. There's likely many, many other survivors that have faced abuse or faced behavior from him.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just I have an idea of some numbers of victims, and it's pretty horrific.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
And it's not even, I don't even want to know what I don't know. It's just it's just the things that's happened backstage in that company's been, and there's a lot of things that make it very complicated for women to come forward. A lot of them have kids now. A lot of them, they got things in their background where people could hit them with, and just because this is just the nature of the wrestling business is just kind of scummy.
Because they want the perfect victim. They don't want a victim who also has this, sordid past or shady, what they deem shady. If they're not a perfect victim, then because they want them to act, and they want them to act a certain way and behave a certain way, which we saw a lot, especially with the Harvey Weinstein case, that they were like, oh, well, you went back to him or you did these things. And because these women didn't act the way they thought a victim should, they discredited what happened to them. And we see that play out with Speaking Out, with Me Too. I mean, it's just a history of this because they
Jeffrey Epstein had his victims write him love letters. He was stacking those up as possible evidence to try to ruin testimony. And I mean, the thing is abused people do these things. They're abused for a reason. And
it rewires your brain. I mean, I've done a lot of reading on this specific stuff because of just trauma and all of the things that go on with it. And it legitimately rewires your brain. Neuroscientists will all sit here and testify, it rewires your brain. You start to feel as though you can't survive without this person, or that the removal of them will be bad for you, or there will be blowback for that. I mean, there's a million reasons why a person would be. Look at some of the stuff that's even coming out in the Diddy case right now. That
case mirrors what we've heard about Vince. The allegations.
I thought about that a lot.
Yes. And so it's the same kind of mentality as
exactly.
You have one person who's on this pedestal, who's an abuser, who has a gateway to what you want, which is maybe a music career or some fame or fortune, or just maybe some security or feeling important. And they, and the testimony in his case has been horrific. Yes. but it's kind of like the same mentality. It's just it's the abuser, kind of mentality. It's pretty, you see the signs pretty easily after a while when you cover enough cases, you've covered enough stories, you've read enough about it, and we'll see what happens with this. But I think I think Laurinaitis' flip, I think, is very significant. People will say, "Oh, we expected this, that," but I mean, to do this, he's, at this stage of the game, and I mean, some of the points Dave brought up,
arbitration again.
Yeah, and that's another thing. It's like this is starting to be a mess in other issues, which is like you're involving TKO in the shareholder suit. You're involving, if this happens to leak over to the Ring Boys at all, I don't see how that would happen, but maybe it does. Baron's getting sued in the Ring Boy scandal. They have held TKO responsible for things that happened before their purchase of UFC. That was another point Dave brought up. That happens regularly with companies. Just because you buy a company doesn't mean you're all of a sudden not liable for the bad things that happened there before.
Right.
That follows that company.
Right. And that Maryland case specifically allows victims to go after entities like WWE, TKO, and even the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
So
and that thing that I think other people don't realize is that one of the things that Grant's looking for in the Colker case up in Peak Wellness with the discovery motion there is possible RICO involvement. And Laurinaitis could definitely be very helpful in that regard as far as witness testimony, if that's something they're pursuing or they're looking into. And, just it just changes a lot of things in the game. I think this is going to send shockwaves for a little bit for this case.
We have a couple questions that I wanted to ask, and so Lady B asked, do you think we'll ever find out who on the board leaked the original information to the Wall Street Journal?
I think that's probably going to come up in depositions if they get that far.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely theories on who it could have been, but then also you think of all the enemies that man has made over the decades.
The Netflix documentary on McMahon pointed it at two people they thought were possible, and it was a family member. So it kind of really
narrowed it.
That's a lot of people. I think a lot of people have had the family member. I think a lot of people have had the family member theory for a long time.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think that Netflix documentary kind of confirmed what a lot of people assumed. I guess we'll just put it that way.
Yes.
And so Crash TV asks, so if it does go all the way to trial, Laurinaitis will presumably be called to testify against Vince McMahon. What if his testimony or evidence he provides ultimately proves to be not credible too? Could that undermine the Grant team?
Obviously, yeah. I mean, that's part of witness testimony. They're going to McMahon's team, if it comes to it and he's witnessing and he's testifying on the stand, or even in deposition, there's going to be a cross-examination by the defendants. It could possibly blow up. It could be bad testimony. They may be able to refute it, but that's all going to be decided by the jury.
Yep.
Right.
I think that's what's the most important. I think that people need to focus on is the idea is that if this thing moves on to trial, it does get a jury. It gets in front of 12 people who need to consider all of these elements. And this is how our system is supposed to work. This is the way that justice actually gets served. It does take a long time. It seems daunting to people, but there is a reason for that. It's slower because of politics in general and corruption.
Yeah.
But at its fundamental baseline, the idea here is like Janel getting her day in court would be huge.
Yeah. I mean, not most 90% of court cases don't ever go to trial.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's part of one reason why. I mean, we got so many plea deals, and prosecutors just care about getting a guilty in a lot of cases in the criminal side. So it just our court system's broken a bit, and people really go all the way to a trial. It doesn't matter if it's civil court, it doesn't matter if it's criminal court. So if this goes to trial,
it's huge enough.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Then I just saw this. We have a question from Brian Zillum. He said, what's wild to consider, or I guess it's not a question, it's a comment. What's wild to consider as Brad Shepard can impact the Grant case?
I'm guessing that he was mentioned in the minute complaint, I believe. I don't know if I'm right about that, but he was the guy I think he was accused of leaking Grant's name from a WWE source when this all began. He would be possibly called to testify. He might have to give a deposition.
It'd be a
Now
wild
there's
trial.
law. Now, if he's acting as a journalist, though, if he's acting as a journalist, there's laws to protect him from that.
Right.
True
You know,
story.
you're like, you know,
Yeah,
so
you're right. That's a great
But
point.
you have to prove that Brad Shepard is acting as a journalist in general.
I think
ever.
that just his. I think what his work he's done. I think with, you know, he's been a wrestling reporter for whatever long. I don't know because
Yeah.
he wasn't around when I was around. But I think just with that alone, he would be subject to journalistic protections. You know, he would get some of the protections. And I don't think, I mean, maybe Grant's side wouldn't see him as somebody that would call forward.
Useful.
Right. He would probably, and who knows if he'd be, I don't want to say reliable, if that's the word, but that might just be somebody you would not want to waste your time on.
There's more trouble than it's worth in a lot of ways. You want your witness testimony to actually like lend credence to the idea that all of these things that she's alleging that are horrible and disgusting happened. And I mean, that's the main goals of the, this is crazy. When I heard this, I was shocked. I didn't think about it being a possibility, but it's kind of amazing.
Yeah, it could go really deep.
I mean, hope.
I don't think Shepard would be called at all. I just think he got leaked the name, and
he'll just kind of be a footnote in this story. I think.
You know, he's the guy who printed her name. He got the scoop on her name, and he reported it to me that I don't think, you know, I would be upset if he were to get called in or be forced to testify or give up his sources. I don't. Think
I think it's just that, you know, when wrestling history historians look back on this, then Brad Shepard is always going to be tied to the story as being the one who leaked her name. You know,
you guys don't need that in your ethics situation. You don't need people being called to testify on their sources because that opens up a can of worms for all of you. That's not. I mean,
depending on the circumstances, 95% of the time, I would not put the name of a victim in a story.
Yeah.
You know, I just wouldn't. That's just because that's how my own code of ethics go, and that's usually what I've come to agree with my editor.
Yeah.
Janel Grant team knows.
Yeah, and you'd hope that the Grant team knew what they were doing and believe they have rock solid enough.
Her team knows what they're doing. Let me tell
you. We've seen that time and time again. We've talked about this many times. I don't think Janel could have found a better lawyer than Ann Callis and her.
She is like crazy
because she knows her. She knows her stuff. She knows what she's doing. She is doing. You know, I don't think Janel could have found a better person to represent her and to try to take those cases hopefully to trial.
For legal people, you know, who follow courts and stuff, this is definitely what you would call a heavyweight matchup. You know, the Holland firm, Eric Holland, and, you know, Ann's part of that, and then you have Rosenberg, and I mean, this would be a battle of courtroom titans if it gets to trial.
Man, can you imagine? I mean, they would. It makes me wonder now because it's been a while, but we do have a predilection for celebrity trials being televised.
Well,
it's even happened recently.
They cannot broadcast or release audio of her trial because it's in federal court. You're not allowed to bring a camera or any recording device into a federal court building.
Yep. It would only be they'd have the drawings and they would have the transcripts they were allowed to have.
Yeah, people will go in.
And reporters who were allowed into the courtroom.
Yeah, I've been in that.
You can't bring recording devices. All you have to like have a pencil and paper. Essentially, is all you can pretty much bring if it's still like that.
That's why I learned to write so fast.
It's been a long time since I've been to a courtroom, but pretty much, if I remember right, if you're just sitting in on court, they don't let you bring much of anything except a pencil and paper.
I mean, I think you may be able to bring a laptop and type, but I've seen people been told to put those away in certain situations. Yeah. So, I mean, I always brought a piece of paper, a notebook,
notepad,
you know, and that was what I wrote down with. That's how I got my quotes. And sometimes you check with other reporters afterwards and make sure you got the quote right. And then you go from there. And then usually after that, I would talk to, you know, maybe I grab the prosecutor or the defense attorney afterward and, you know, talk to them.
Which is why BJ is so horrible and catches trolls all the time, is because he does such a good job at his job that it pisses people off and they can't stand facts. And so they lose their freaking mind on him.
Yeah. Just like I don't do hardworking things like ask myself questions in a column and then answer them, I guess, like some people like to do.
Well, you don't verify your facts. You don't have good sources. I mean, BJ, you're just like a Vince hater.
That's it. It's all about the hating.
Sorry, I gotta make fun because poor Sam has to take this. Poor Sam has to take this too, and I'm a big. I like to remind people that if you're getting that much flack, then you guys are doing your jobs properly. And you should be very proud of yourselves.
The saying goes, and I've heard this. This is from my first editor I had at Dayton Daily News. He says, if you're not taking somebody off, you're probably not doing your job right.
Right.
Now, if you're ticking everybody off, you're probably not doing your job right either.
Yeah.
But if you're not ticking somebody off some of the time,
yeah,
you're not doing your job right.
Right.
And I mean, I just, it's part of the work. I mean, the depressing thing to me is just, it's just like people jump into the replies of the, announce this huge, Grant's team has this huge announcement. Laurinaitis is flipping. And then people are just like taking shots at me at a streaming story I wrote 2 months ago. It's like,
that's all they've got.
It's like, okay, well,
that's it. They don't want to admit it. I think that we're suffering hard.
Even though I will say I was on that media call days later where Tony Khan confirmed PJ's reporting.
I know. Well, we had one
with my own ears.
Oh my gosh!
I typed it with my own fingers when I was covering that media call. I heard it with my own ears.
That's the most. What's hilarious about all the antipathy toward that story is it's probably one of the most well-sourced stories I've had wrestling wise, because Tony Khan confirmed it. We also had somebody from Bob McGee was able to get a confirmation from somebody that worked at Warner Brothers Discovery by their name. I had it worked through 3 or 4 different sets of sources. It took 3 months to get that. I was just looking to see, okay, I want to bust through the threshold. It wasn't so much as I wanted to see how good or bad they were doing, as much as I just wanted to see, okay, how are they doing? And what's it take to get numbers like this from a streaming platform? Because this is where we're going. This is how we're going to be judging ratings and seeing things like that. To me, that was probably me getting the numbers. I was part of seeing how much work it would take to get those, because as Tony said, and other people can't seem to believe, like Dave Scheer and Jim Cornette and Eric Bischoff and other people ripped on me about it, is that, the TV people don't get these numbers.
The usual suspects.
Yeah, the guys you think, the guys who haven't been relevant in anything in 20, 25 years, are telling me, and haven't ever covered anything in their life, are telling me how I should do my job. But
shocking.
But
didn't Dave Meltzer confirm your stuff too?
Yeah, he did.
Or at least endorse it? I'm pretty sure I read that
he did. He mentions it every time.
He mentioned your reporting.
Every time he mentions the Nielsen ratings, he puts in, for Dynamite or Collision, he mentions this does not include the max streaming numbers. I mean, the streaming numbers were correct. I mean, it was a wide gap because of it was just, I think that also was part of the story too, is I wanted to show this was a very up and down nature of streaming. And it's like it had a minus 10 to 20% differential every week. This was an average based on hours of minutes, viewer minutes watching. I mean, it's just a very complicated process because of instead of having little data, Nielsen, which is, getting people to mail in lists of what they watched or put up devices or whatever. Now you're just buried in data. Yes. And a lot of it's kept secret. Like most of the creators don't know what they're getting as far as data. I'm going to have something on Netflix and WWE soon. It's probably going to make a lot of people mad too. But it's a different world right now. And it's just with streaming and things like that, it's just people are going to have to get used to, they own the streamers have the power right now. They're going to be holding it to their chest. A lot of them have their own sales teams. I mean, Netflix has its own sales team.
Yeah,
that
so
makes sense.
they're not going to. So they're not going to be like, oh, we need a Nielsen outlet that'll, no, they don't want to.
They want to direct sell to people that they want to direct sell to. They don't need any intermediaries. They want all the money for their sales.
So that'll be how that picture gets played. But that's stuff that's going to be occurring down the road. But I think as far as the case goes, I think this was a very significant development. I think they're going to try to move this to trial as much as they can.
Yeah.
Maybe they throw a settlement and it's so big that it changes their mind. But I imagine that's what TKO and WWE is going to want to do, is get out from underneath this as fast as they possibly can. Yeah. And the thing is, I think they probably would have done that already if it was possible. Yeah, I just don't see Grant. I think she's taken us the whole way.
You know what?
I mean, she has nothing left to lose at
She's
this point.
this is like, she's gotten this far.
Yeah.
There's a real chance that she's going to get her day in court and things are going to get played out. And
yeah,
that's just, huge fingers crossed. It's like, I know that Vince has gotten away. I think the biggest thing is, like, I think the feds still have it in their craw for him because feds have
if we get an administration change, I think he's in a lot of trouble.
Like,
there's the
feds, they never get, even with like the ones that are there. Just because this dude moved in doesn't mean that like the decades of like interrelational between like FBI and justice and CIA and how those people function, the deep state. But it's like, yes, but those people know each other and they've been working together for an incredibly long time and they talk to each other and they know people who tried to get Vince from the steroids or from the thing or what. So
the FBI
that never goes away.
They knew about the Ring Boy scandal. There was a decision that they should go after the steroid stuff. That stuck with them for years. Plus, you're also, this was the same district. The criminal case was in the Southern District of New York. That's the same district that convicted Trump on 34 felonies.
Right.
He's trying to completely remake that district. He wants to completely tear it down. And that's like the last district really in the United States and the DOJ that was really going after high dollar, big billionaire criminals.
Yeah.
Especially for
they're the ones currently
prosecuting.
Time. They're the ones prosecuting Diddy right now. And they're with the Harvey Weinstein.
They were
on the original and on the retrial. They're on it.
They got the douchebag that did the corruption. The
politician. Bob Melendez.
Bob Menendez, Sam Bankman-Fried. There was a line of people who've been going for years.
Yeah, this is like the last. I hope it's a strong enough place, and because New York is New York, I hope that it's a little tougher than he thinks it is. But
I'll say this: I think that the Vince story in relation to his criminal charges and overall with Trump and the DOJ is kind of a small thing. It's kind of it's part of a piece of a real overarching battle that's happening right now between that district, the courts, and what's happening in Washington. And I don't really have much more to say on it than that. But that story is going to come out sometime, and it's probably not going to be a pretty one when it does.
Right.
I really hope he gets through first.
We do have a question before. I know that your time is probably wrapping up, but before you go, Lady B has a question for you. She said, do you think the Vince allegations are being underreported on a mainstream media scale?
I thought originally when the charges came out, I thought there was a lot of good reporting on it. That was the Wall Street Journal broke a lot of this news. So did Vice News. I don't think they've done as good a job keeping the criminal case in mind. I'd like to have seen a lot more better reporting on the criminal case, what's been happening with it, if it was dropped, why it was dropped. That's some places where, if you're the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, you're going to have better sources than BJ Bethel out in Ohio. So I would like to see some better reporting on that. But at the same time, it's like the media is getting hit by the same struggles from, just the economy where, some people with Vice and Wall Street Journal who reported on that stuff have been since laid off.
Yep.
They don't have jobs anymore. So, so that's another problem that's affected this. But we'll see what happens. I think that when this stuff kind of blows up, it gets in the court. I think it's going to be a bigger deal than people think. And I don't really care about as far as I'm concerned, I just, whatever the media does, the media does. But to me, I think it's important. It's worth covering, and that's why I do it. And I like to report stuff that nobody else is reporting, and
appreciated it.
So that's why I report this one so diligently. Some of the numbers on the stories, I don't even ask that much, but I'm sure some do better than others, some do lower than others, but but it is what it is. It's just, it doesn't change. The numbers don't change the importance of the story. To me, this is a hugely important story. It's massively important, and that's why I cover it the way I do.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. This is going to go up. Well, yes, please make sure you follow BJ. But Crash says, cheers for the mega info up in your observations, BJ.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And then, yes, make sure you follow him on Twitter, and he's on Blue Sky as well. It's BJ Bethel. So without the tweets.
Without the tweets. Yeah.
They don't.
I
do the
didn't
tweets.
have the blue
Y'all
sky,
do the
but we are
tweets over
scooching
there.
over. But we will retweet it.
But
I
yeah.
usually
Thanks for
follow
having
them.
me, guys. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you for taking the time. We really,
We're
really
serious.
appreciate it. And unfortunately, this is the story that will probably be going on for a long time. And we'll bring you on to talk about something that doesn't have anything to do with this at some point. But
Maybe
in the meantime,
we'll find something fun.
Probably for the near future, it's gonna be related.
Well, there's
to
a lot of court cases going on, so it's probably keep me around. I appreciate coming on. I'm a big fan of the podcast and the show.
Thank
I'm
you.
a big fan of
you.
both you guys.
Thank
so
you.
keep it up. Keep up
Thank
the
you
great
so
work.
much. Thank
Thanks for
you, and
having
thank
me.
you for your support. It really, really means a lot to us, for sure.
Yeah, it does.
All right.
And
Bye,
thanks for
guys.
your time.
Bye.
Have a
Thank
great
you, BJ.
weekend.
You too.
Got it. Oink.
All right.
All right,
So
let's put us back where we belong.
all right. So yes, thank you for staying with us. Again, if you were here just because BJ was here, thank you for checking us out. We hope that you hit the subscribe button. If you are unfamiliar with us, we have been covering this case since the beginning. I also write for Daily DDT and Wrestling Inc. And for Daily DDT, I have been covering this case. Since then, I've also been covering the various NDAs and lawsuits. I covered Speaking Out from the beginning. So that is my background with this, and that's one of the reasons we cover it here, is because I cover it in my writing side of things, and also just because we think it's a really important story that even though wrestling is a sport that we love, it does not mean that we're going to sweep away, sweep under the rug stories like this, because it's important. And that's how these stories continue. I mean, that's how these things continue to happen, is when people do not cover them. And so that's something that we will continue to do for the duration of this. And should anything, I've been covering the Ring Boys lawsuit as well. We've covered it here. We've had the opportunity to have on Professor Bridget Carr, who is a human trafficking expert. And she was gracious enough to give us some time last fall to kind of explain the differences between human trafficking and sex trafficking, and, answer some questions related to this lawsuit. So, we would love to have you stay if you came for BJ, and if not, come back when BJ's back. And yes, and please make sure, the subscribe to Fight Game Media on Twitter, our YouTube. They're on Blue Sky as well. We do cover non-serious things as well. We cover
lots of things. We
do.
Just have to cover important things too. So
yes, definitely. So
serious
I guess now that we have moved past the serious stuff, and if you are tuning in late, we did cover the R-Truth news at the top of the show, because that was something that I think everybody has been stunned by. And so we did do that. And thank you. Crash says all huge stories and all should be getting more coverage in the main. Thank you for your efforts, ladies. Appreciate that.
Wait, do I have us on the wrong side?
You do.
I'm sorry. My bad.
Thank you. I make beats.
Thank you. Sorry.
Sorry for throwing you
guys
off.
Us off too. Yep. Sometimes I just get a little backwards.
It's all right. Wrestling Power Bombshells presents the BJ Bethel Important Info Dump. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I'm really grateful that he actually came on and talked about that with us, because people don't understand how much goes on with this stuff, and he does a really good job of breaking it down. Thanks for being here, Josiah, and everyone.
We were wrong-sided.
Wrong-sided.
Yes, he said it's like the 6 sides is still in TNA. No side is the right side. That's very fair.
Oh man.
But again, thank you guys for being here with us today. And any time that you're here, whether it's for these really serious things or the lighthearted things, or when I'm asking what are we doing here, because speaking of Collins, who was here earlier, it seems like Honor Ramble may be going on a hiatus temporarily because of the things that are happening in ROH, which is not a lot of nothing. Is a lot of nothing. So
that sucks.
I mean, it may just be temporary. Collins hasn't said for sure. It may just be, maybe it's just a couple of weeks. She's, they've got some other things that
need some summertime. Get ready.
Yeah,
for
we've
stuff.
got. I mean, we do have Athena is fine. I haven't watched this week's ROH yet, but I do know that Athena is coming back next week. She's having believe she's actually having a match, hopefully. So, and then maybe we'll find out more about this women's tournament whenever it happens. And unfortunately, ROH, we knew the releases were coming. It was reported 2 or 3 months ago, but we have confirmation that Abaddon's contract was not renewed, and nor was Bear Bronson. But that was reported a couple of months ago. And then, so there were some other names reported at the time. Those wrestlers have not stated one way or another yet. So I would not be surprised if more ROH, not releases, because they were non-contract renewals.
Just right. Yeah. The contracts were ended.
Right. They did not bring them back. So Brad says that Bear was more his own decision. He didn't want to resign. They did quit booking him once his partner was arrested. They kind of fell into this trap. Well, instead of just booking him on his own, they kind of just decided. I mean, who knows? I mean, we don't know exactly the extent of it, but from some of the things that Bear has tweeted, it kind of seems like he felt like he was being punished for what his former tag team partner had done. But yeah, so Abaddon is out. There were some other names a few months ago that were reported that their contracts would not be re-signed. So I'm sure I would not be surprised in the coming days if we get some more confirmation from some of those wrestlers. And Josiah said that I still think that they should just book ROH like NXT 2012, 2018, just weekly TV that builds to the occasional big special and pay-per-view. It's basically a squash show now, and it doesn't have to be. Yeah, it's taken on, and it's been like this on and off where it's become more Dark and Elevation. And I don't say that necessarily is a bad thing, because I love Dark and Elevation. I watch every single episode of Dark and Elevation. I love ROH. But a lot of its identity is gone. They're not building things as strongly as they had been. Which, that's been a thing that I've talked about a lot. Athena was the biggest story they had for 3 years, and then it just kind of fell by the wayside. And Athena's at this point where she's been champion for over 900 days at this point.
Wow.
And we saw her on AEW television, and people have been asking where she's at, and they have not found room for her for whatever reason. And who knows? We don't know exactly what they're building to. Maybe we'll start getting some of that now that Athena's about to be back on TV. Well, ROH TV, I should say. I don't know that she will be on AEW television, but on ROH. And then, we'll see how this. And then there's a CMLL, relationship. They've had a lot of the Lucha wrestlers featured there. La Catalina is somebody that they seem to really like. They've been using her fairly often as of late. So I think that relationship could be good for them. I just hope they put more effort into the booking, which has probably been one of my biggest complaints for the last 3 years, is that they do something with their booking and put somebody like, somebody mentioned Dustin Rhodes should be put in charge of ROH. Like, I would take that. He has a wrestling school. Actually, Bailey just was at his wrestling school over the weekend. So she went and did some stuff down there, and I think trained some of his students. And I know Abaddon had prior to their release from ROH, they had been training down there as well. And so Rhodes, the Rhodes Academy in Texas. So I don't know if because that he has that commitment, if that's something that he'd want to take on, but he has a really great mind, and I would not waste that. And then, and I've always thought, obviously I think Chris Hero, he is involved with some of the stuff, and I know he does booking for, I believe it's West Coast Pro. So that probably is his priority. And then, always just put Bryan Danielson, just let him do it.
I mean,
give it
that
to
would
him.
be the easiest. Yeah.
Yeah. And so ROH, that has been, whoops, not that one, that, TK has talked about putting it there. The last time I asked him about it, it's been a couple of calls, so it's been a few months. He didn't really have an update. He just said it was something they're still pursuing, but right now they're kind of their priorities were obviously getting AEW onto Max, and they're working out some other deals internationally. They at the time, I think that's when they were renewing their contract with, I'm sure Josiah will correct me. I believe it was TSN is the channel that it's on in Canada, and they were doing some stuff with that. They have renewed their deal with ITV in Europe or in the UK, and so they're apparently working on some other deals. I know he did mention on the last media call they are looking at partners in India to do some stuff there. So I think, okay, yes, thank you. I knew Josiah would confirm that it is TSN. So I think ROH is on his list of priorities, but getting them on TV is not the priority when they're trying to get on these other markets. It's just how I see it. I mean, I could be, maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how I feel about it. I think it's on his list. It's just, he's more or less, he's glad he has I'm thankful. I will forever be thankful, but he is the one who owns that library and that it's accessible. $9.99 a month is a really good deal. And then you get new ROH on top of that. Sometimes ROH is a chore to watch, but sometimes you get to see some really cool talent there, and I wish he'd put more into it. But I'm just glad that for as much as frustrated as I get with it, I will forever be grateful that Tony Khan is the one who owns ROH and not WWE, because they would have just hit it somewhere on Peacock and have
put it in their stupid thing that is so convoluted and hard to find things in. Yes. Brad, thank you for saying this, because I meant to say this at the top of the show, but the R-Truth stuff threw me off. But yes, happy Pride Month to any members of the LGBTQIA community. I had been planning all day to say something, and then that R-Truth information just completely derailed where I was going with it. So thank you, Brad, for the reminder. But yes, happy Pride Month to anybody who celebrates. We want you to know that I think hopefully we've made that clear, but if you are new here or if we have not made it clear enough, you are welcome here at Power Bombshells, but in Fight Game Media in general. And I know that I know that a lot of this community is going through a lot of really tough things with the current climate in our own country. And so just we stand in solidarity with you. We're here. We're with you. We see you. We want you around.
Definitely. Yes, for sure. So thank you, Brad, for that reminder. Jermaine says, this is why I have Athena drop the world title to Thunder Rosa, since there's a lot more CMLL talent down in ROH. Thunder Rosa, I have not seen any updates. The last I had heard, like 2 weeks ago, she posted that her son had been in the hospital and they didn't know what was happening with him. I don't know if they have since found any answers or if he's still in the hospital. I think that's why she was not on the El Paso shows, I believe. I may be wrong, but the last I had heard, I know that she had tweeted that her son had been in the hospital and they weren't sure what was going on with his health and they were trying to find answers. So I don't know if she was in those plans. I don't know, how that will affect things. But I would not be mad at that. Josiah said ROH still existing, even its current form, is much better for me. ROH is why I'm still a wrestling fan after WCW died, honestly. And Josiah, you're not the only one that I've heard that from. I've heard a lot of people express that sentiment that, ROH is what they turned to when WCW was gone. And Brad says every week ROH puts up a new compilation at the same time as their new weekly show. That alone makes it worth Tony owning it. Yeah. That he's always putting up compilations of something, and even if it's old stuff, I think he put up something with Athena recently. I think there was something with Billy Starks that he just put up as well. He's got I think they did if I'm not, I could be mistaken, but I think they did one on Tyler Black, who is obviously is Seth Rollins. I think they did a compilation of him, or they're going to. They've done stuff they've done one with Kenny Omega's matches in ROH, and they've done one with Claudio Castagnoli. They've done one with Bryan Danielson, I believe. There's just a ton of wrestlers that you can go back and find their ROH work all in one place, which is a really cool thing to see. And then that's how, and I talked about it at the time back when CM Punk and Samoa Joe wrestled before All In. I had never seen their matches because I didn't have access to ROH at the time. And actually, I don't even think I was watching ROH then, but I went back because of the network. I mean, because of Honor Club, and got to go back and watch those matches leading up to it, so that I could like understand some of the call, because I knew there was going to be callbacks, because I was like, those two live for callbacks, and so I knew that there would be. And so going to watch that match, I got to see like the callbacks that they did. So that's also a really cool way. One thing that I really enjoy about having access to that network is
it's better that Tony owns it. That's the best. But if the show's going to be on, maybe put a little effort into it.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. Yeah, and Brad says that they did a best of ROH for the first 5 years of ROH, 1 year uploaded for each week for 5 weeks. Yeah, I did see that they did that. That was really nice. Cool too. But yeah, so I guess obviously we are now a week out from Double or Nothing. And so before we go on, what do you think? What did you think about the show? And and then I guess we'll just start with that. What did you think of
It was good. It was really good. I had like no serious. I mean, there were some things that dragged a little, but I was kind of tired, so that may have been why. I thought Anarchy was great. I think Anarchy's deliver every single time.
Yeah. Every single, and again, we talk about how people have different feelings about star
that
ratings,
kind of thing.
Every Anarchy in the arena except last year's have gotten 5 stars. Last year's got 4.5.
Dave with his half stars. Yeah, no, I thought that overall the show was really great. I thought there were some really super good matches on there. Mike Bailey with Okada was fun. The women's matches were awesome. Obviously, Hangman and Ospreay put on a ridiculous show. I can't wait for that rematch. It's going to be insane. I kind of like where they're going with some of this, with Swerve and with Will putting over Hangman.
Brad, stop it. Wait, no, hold on.
What'd he say? What'd he say?
It moved that Marina got a 5-star match before Kurt Angle.
Now.
This sounds about right for Jetter here, that Double or Nothing was like most AEW people's pay-per-view, is very good and very long.
Yeah, it was long, but they're usually long, and I usually feel like it's worth it.
I do too. I know that this is a conversation that comes up literally every time. And I know people need content. I get it, because we need things to talk about too. And I know that, but I mean, so at this point, you're beating a dead horse. Either you like the long pay-per-views or you don't. Tony's not going to change them. This is what he has done since day one, since the beginning. And I don't say if you don't like, and if you hate it, I get it. I'm not coming down on you for that. I'm just saying, I get it. But I also feel like it's just a moot point. Tony's not going to change that.
From everyone, what everyone has said about Tony is that in his mind, these shows, you're paying $50 for this or whatever, you should get $50 worth out of it. So I give them credit for it. They are long, but the idea is that I'm giving you your money's worth, whether you like it or not.
Right. And the argument, and I know some people with the WWE PLEs are like, oh, this is the perfect sweet spot for 5 matches. But they're not doing it because of you. They're doing it so they don't have to pay talent.
Correct.
Because MXM has talked about it, and I know I go back to that reference a lot, but there is a video of MXM talking about the bucket payment system that WWE does. And it's a great thing. It has benefits for, wrestlers getting paid, but then when it starts getting too close to, overflowing and where they're going to get into the bonus type of things, they start pulling people off so that they don't have to pay them.
Yep.
That's why they do 5-match PLEs. It's not because that's what their fans like. It's because they don't want to pay their talent. They want to pay.
And anyway, they can't complain because WrestleMania has been it was overbloated before, and it's even worse now that it's 2 nights. So
right.
Don't tell me that Tony's
that way.
pay-per-views.
And then Mania, I believe Saudi is getting. They're gonna get their version of WrestleMania. Like there's gonna still be WrestleMania, but then they're gonna have their Mania, which is gonna be like Super WrestleMania or some shit. So they'll have that too. So it just. Anyway, back to Double or Nothing. I thought it was a great match. I loved Anarchy in the Arena, and it was funny because I remembered leading up to it, I need to time this because it's an official match with 2 women. I got so hyped. 2 minutes in, I was like, I'm supposed to be timing this. So luckily it was an excuse to, not that we wouldn't have it, it was an excuse to go back and watch it, was so that I could time the match because I was so into it that I completely forgot. And then unfortunately we did miss the first match live because we were having some streaming issues trying to get things situated. We finally got it figured out. I was trying to jump. First, I was going to watch from the beginning, and Nikki was like, let's watch in real time in case in case things happen and, people arrive. And I think this was the first Double or Nothing that did not have anyone debut.
Yeah. I realized that too.
Yeah. And then Hook was the only return.
Yep.
And it was a very brief return. I don't know if he just had a break from filming or how they're going to address that, because he took out Claudio because Claudio's the one who took him out. And then Joe's like, yeah, come on, get in the ring. And he's like, no, clearly he's pissed off that Hobbs has his title. And where does he fit into this they're trios champions. And are they going to, they're going to have to, or if Hook comes back, are they going to free bird it? Will Hook agree to be in part of that? So, that is a little bit of an interesting story, but yeah, I loved that. I thought Jamie and Mercedes was
really
incredible. Good. First time the women have ever opened an AEW pay-per-view. I love that they bookended it with the Owen matches. I think that was extremely smart to do it that way. I could have I think Anarchy in the Arena, if it had main evented, it would have been fine. But I think the way that they did that with the book ending it with the Owen to make the Owen feel that even
really
that
important.
More important. Yeah. Josiah said, are they going to freebird it? This needs to be in the wrestling vocabulary. It's in my wrestling vocabulary.
If Sam gave that to you, you're welcome. You can have that forever. Hey, if it works, it works. If something describes something. I've had this conversation. It's like sometimes wrestling talk just is the most reasonable explanation to use. Just sometimes saying worked himself into a shoot is just the right thing to say.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so and then I thought Will Ospreay and Hangman was just perfection. Clearly went on my match of the year list. So did Jamie and Mercedes. And a lot of people. So when we decided to after I had started it, then Nikki was like, let's just watch it in real time. So I was jumping ahead. When I was jumping ahead, I saw that Mercedes won. But at first I was a little bummed, but I was like, well, it would have been spoiled anyway, because by the time they got to Mariah and Mina, they would have said, Mercedes was. I was like, I mean, it's fine that it got spoiled because it would have been spoiled by the show itself. But I thought Mercedes and I thought Mina and Tony was a really good match. I enjoyed most of the show. I think my least favorite, obviously, is the surprise to no one was FTR.
Yeah, that was okay. I could have taken that or left it. I'm glad that
especially with the outcome. I know what they're doing. I know they're doing that stupid. They're building them as they're solidifying them as heels, and they're building that stupid Living Legends killer moniker where they're basically taking it. I know FTR and Randy Orton are friends. You don't have to come at me with that, but it just goes to show you that they can't come up with a gimmick on their own still.
That to me felt like it should have been a 0-hour match. It really did.
Yeah. Well, because and then you put Nigel in it to lose, and again, I know it's to solidify the Living Legend Killers.
Yeah, I get it. But
then they are on TV on Collision last night, which, by the way, didn't start until 11:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I just want you to know
we couldn't figure it out. We had to watch it this morning because we just could not figure it out. It did not
start until and I had forgot. I was writing my preview because we post Wrestling Inc. We post the beginning part of the live coverage is the preview of what matches are on the show, and so we always try to have that up an hour before the show starts. So it's 6. I was typing it maybe 6:40ish, and I was like, this tweet says, and I'd gone to Twitter to pull up the matches, and I was like, oh my God, I'd forgotten we have to wait until the game 6 because at the time earlier in the week we didn't know it was if there was going to be a game 6, and then it got pushed to 1, and then Inside the NBA had their final show ever, which was the post thing. So that's Charles Barkley, Shaq, Ernie Johnson Jr. and I'm forgetting the fourth person.
It's okay.
So then they're all, and I mean, I should have been more sympathetic. I get it. I'm a sentimental person too, but I don't care about the NBA. And it's already like, I'm on live coverage. Like, I don't have time to sit here and listen to you. So I'm sorry. I should have been nicer about the fact that they were saying their goodbyes and talking about what the show meant to them. And so, but I was just like, you guys, I'm
really tired. I have a show tomorrow. I have things to do this week. Like,
it started at 11.
We move it along.
Like, my editor tapped out at like 1:00 because he had been doing something, and I was like, "It's good." I was like, I mean, I don't think this was pre-taped, and I don't think anything breaking is gonna happen while we're on the. You know what did break before the show even started was that Tana is officially having his final match in the UK at Forbidden Door. That broke at like 11:00. So
I saw that first thing this morning. So I was like,
editor, I sent it to my editor, and he's like, I'm already writing this article. So he too was killing time waiting on it to start. So yes, Josiah is correct. Josiah also, or I'm sorry, this is Crash, but Josiah is now also covering Collision for Wrestling Observer, so he gets to watch it with live when I do. But Crash's Collision was excellent this week. Just focused on the wrestling mostly, which is a nice break from the heavy on the mic build going down into the Double or Nothing pay-per-view, except for FTR had to have a really long promo segment to build a match where they were kind of racist. I was just like, why is Cash speaking to them like this? And then Dax kind of did it too. And I was like, this is not, I mean, it wasn't like blatantly racist in the way that you would expect like MJF to be, that it was like kind of microaggression. Like,
I hear what you're saying.
Thankfully, they didn't do like, I can't understand what you're saying type things, but he was like, Cash was like, how do you say down in Mexico? Like, I was like, why are you stop? And also, you were a Southerner, so you were just kind of reinforcing the stereotype that people like me are trying not to have.
They're like, excuse me, I'm smart and I have this accent and I have to walk around and talk with it. I have a very good friend and he's from Texas and he has his accent. So he's incredibly intelligent, but he's stuck. As he likes to tell us, he's stuck with this accent. He told me once I could quote Nietzsche with this accent, and you'd still think I was a dumbass. And I'm like, he could too. That's the scariest part.
Right.
But
so
when they do that crap, it's like, now I really take it because I'm like, would you stop? I have actual intelligent friends that don't need this.
I was like, please don't. And I was like, I know they're heels. I get it, but please stop leaning into that type of.
That's the cheapest heat ever in 2025 and a half. Yeah, it's the same thing we talk about with MJF and picking. I have so many friends that are Ren Fair people. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot is evolving their acts to coexist with the current standard of culture and being empathetic and compassionate towards your fellow man and their plight. Even one of the older people that I know, he said that, he made a joke one day and realized because he had a family in the crowd that was something that was like the subject of the joke. And he had a moment where he went, I don't ever want to make someone feel like that ever again. He went and talked to them afterwards. Right. And he was like, but they were like, thank you for being aware. And so, but he's like, and I've stopped doing those jokes.
Yeah.
Okay. So if a guy who's been in festivals for 40 years, like my entire life, pretty much, can go, I need to evolve my act because these jokes aren't funny to most people anymore. Then I'm pretty sure these younger people that don't need, they know better. They should, MJF, people like that.
FTR knows better. They're in our age range. They know better.
They do know better.
And I get it. I know it's cheap heat. It is George South 101.
But it's still
you go for the cheap heat. I get it. But also
it's still to me, it needs to, I think it's time. It's played out. It's for me. Yeah. It's what I guess I would say.
Chris is right here. I did not hear this FTR midnight. So yes, when I talked about this a few weeks ago, this is Chris who calls FTR the Midnight Express. Because they are mid. That they sounded like, but it sounded like it would have annoyed me. Yeah, I hated it. It's just very, I know it's heel heat, but it's cheap heel heat. It's lazy as hell.
Yep.
Again, I know I say this. If you want to see heel work that is good and is not falling into these stereotypes, please go watch Mr. Darius Carter.
He's
He's an excellent heel who gets over without falling into the lazy tropes. And I get it. You want quick heel heat. You're in El Paso. Like, I understand why they did it. I just hated it because it's gross. I don't like it. And then again, you have a Southern accent and you make me, and we already have people, especially in this timeline of this country.
Where we are culturally, socioeconomic.
Does not read well with things that are happening with this current administration to brown people.
Yeah,
in this country. It just doesn't play in it. But Josiah said that Dax didn't lean into the racism. Thankfully, he was just calling himself a lucha legend, and that Atlantis Senior should stay home. Cash's part was no good. I really liked Atlantis was mixing English and Spanish in his, and it came across really great. I thought Atlantis, and Atlantis was the TV champion briefly in ROH last year, and he's very, very good. Atlantis Senior is 60-something years old and is still out there wrestling, which is one of the things Dax was like, tell your dad to stay home.
Like, why you don't want your ass kicked by a 63-year-old?
Right.
Oh, sorry,
would.
what?
Right?
What? Did I say that out loud?
They're like, no, we've defeated the Rock and Roll Express. Oh, and God, I just realized they're going to have Atlantis Senior get involved so they can do this stupid Living Legends killer gimmick. I just realized that. Dawned on me in real time. That's what's going to happen. Anyway, back to there was some comments here. I saw some talks amongst, which we love when you guys talk amongst yourselves. So yes, there was the question. So we do know, before we get, so we do know the two of the all in matches will be Mercedes versus Tony Storm, Timeless Tony Storm, and Jon Moxley versus Hangman Page. From what we have been hearing, Will Ospreay and Hangman Page both thought the other should have won the match. They kind of gave Tony from now we're finding out a bit more information. Apparently, Tony spoke with both of them. They both kind of gave their opinions. And then the day before, he told them who was going to win, but told them to keep it to themselves. So nobody knew except for a few people on production who obviously had to have the graphics ready and have, they had to have the graphic ready. They had to obviously know whose music to play at the end. So there was that. And then even before this information came out, it was not long after the show, John Alba tweeted looking at the Olympics, I think I have this bookmarked because I agreed with him as far as the booking goes. And I'm not mad. Obviously, I'm a huge Hangman fan, and I'm not mad. I'm not mad at Mercedes won. It did. Obviously, it threw my dream match of Athena and Mercedes at All In right out the damn window.
I think we got just about every. We were laughing. Bob looked at me one point.
We got so many things wrong.
He's like, you pretty much got every single thing wrong. And I was like, are you attacking me? He's like, no, it's just weird. I thought a lot of that same things. He's like, I'm just, in a way.
I know. I was like, wrong. That's what Tony called it.
He was okay with it, though, because
Tony's probably watching going wrong.
New Japan. That was why I love New Japan, is you don't know. And that's a good thing in the end. It's okay, it didn't go the way, but the fact that there's,
still super sad at Mercedes and Athena. And I agree with this tweet because John Alba said, for some context clues, I think there may have been a change in the creative direction for a couple of the major matches at All In over the last few months. I did not expect Hangman versus Moxley, but I think it's the right call. They heated up Hangman as the top babyface fast, but that also makes me think it makes me think that they changed the winner of Mercedes and Jamie too. Maybe not as last minute, but because they absolutely were hinting that Athena versus Mercedes was the match at All In. They planted those seeds from the day that. So I feel like at some point they changed their minds. Again, Mercedes and Tony is going to be great, and I love it.
Oh man,
I just really, really had my heart set on Mercedes and Athena at All In. And how are we going to get? And I feel like Athena is going to not be on the All In card, and she's going to be at Super Card of Honor the day before, defending and potentially losing her title. And that makes me sad that she's not going to get this big moment. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe they figure out. And obviously, we've seen the issue with All In is you can't put anything ahead of time. You can't, I've lost my train of thought where I was going with that. Don't remember where I was going.
I understand.
But yeah, so I don't. That's where I was going, was like, because a lot of us wanted Emmy to be on All In Wembley. Obviously, you can't fit everybody onto the show, but having Athena not be on that show would make me very sad. And I do want to bring this up. Troy said it was not on TV. It was the day that they announced that All In was happening. At Globe Life Field, they brought out Swerve, Athena, and Mercedes, and they planted the seeds that day. Athena was filming content, and she was talking. They were showing Mercedes, and she was like, "Wow, isn't she beautiful?" And then she kept zooming in, and she was zooming in on the TBS title. They continued that. She continued to mention that over the last few months. They were going back and forth on Twitter prior to them even having the match. Before they were even in the Owen tournament, they were exchanging tweets back and forth. They were absolutely planting seeds for that to be the match at All In. Athena was very much planting that story and feeding that story for months, which is what, so that's where that came from. But so it wasn't on TV as much. It was more of that. Crash and Sam, I'd be sending Tony that strongly worded letter about Athena versus Mercedes ASAP.
Strongly worded letters. Those usually work.
That's probably what it was. He's like, "Oh, Sam really wants this match. Can't have that."
Yeah, screw it. Definitely not.
I'm still mad at her for that one question she asked me a year and a half ago.
Down thumb. Thank you.
We appreciate that.
We appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much.
So there were some comments over here about, of those two matches, which one would you have headline All In? And they were making the case for, let me see if I can find the comments. And also, thank you, Brad. Brad says that he'd have to confirm, but he believes that Atlantis Senior is injured. Thank you for letting me know. Appreciate that. Where are these comments? I knew I should have. Okay, I think I found it here. Okay, Josiah says, as much as I support the women main eventing a pay-per-view, the end of All In has to be Hangman beating Moxley, because there's nothing bigger than that for that show. No, there is a match that is bigger than both of those, and that is Omega Okada 5.
I was just gonna say Okada Omega 5 would be.
That match is bigger than both of those, and I still think we're getting it.
When is it? It's in August, right?
No, it's July 12th. It's a 44 days.
Okay, that's like pretty. They're gonna have to build the heck out of that if they're gonna do that. I'm not saying it's not possible. I mean, I would love to go to it.
Yes, I think Omega 5. I think if that's still, and they can still do it because they both. I assume Kenny is retaining at Fyter Fest on Wednesday. So Fyter Fest on Wednesday is 4 hours.
4 hours.
First half is basically first half Dynamite, second half Collision. Apparently, I didn't realize that they're doing the exact same thing the following week. It's also a 4-hour episode.
Oh, okay. So is there no Collision this week then?
Collision they're making Fyter Fest.
No, it's Dynamite and Collision all in.
So basically, the first 2 hours is Dynamite.
The second 2 hours Collision. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're basically just combining those. And so I assume that we're getting the international 4-way match on, which is Kenny versus Brody King versus Mascara Dorada versus Claudio Castagnoli. If you didn't see Collision, I'm sorry, I just spoiled that for you.
Yeah,
forgot to warn you. I think I was like, there's a possibility that they put the title on Mascara Dorada because of the CMLL relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think that's happening though. I think Kenny retains. Okada won his title eliminator match last night against Anthony Bowens in a really good match.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that they've hinted at it since Okada. Kenny came back. He came back to the ring with Okada. We had the stare down with a perfectly lined image with the all-in picture standing right, just happened to be in that perfect camera spot. Then we had when Okada won the international championship. When Omega won the international championship, Okada brought him the title, and Omega didn't want anything to do with him. So, we've had these little teases of it. I mean, perhaps we've talked about it. Perhaps save it for All Out, or, because you've got to have people want to watch that. But I feel like if All In is your big show, like, how it's been in Wembley, then that is the biggest match that you could possibly have is Omega Okada 5. And there was somebody yesterday, their tweets happened, I don't follow them, happened to come up my timeline. They were watching those matches for the first time.
Oh, wow.
And it was just their reaction was like, I can't believe it took me so long to watch this. And then they were like, do you think I'm going to bed without finishing this? They were like, it is time to lock in. And so he was so like he's live tweeting some of his responses. And he was like, this is the greatest match of all time. And he was like, and it's crazy that every single one of those matches is the greatest match of all time.
Yeah, they're so good.
He was like, and then it's crazy that there could be a worse match out of these four when they are really incredible. And so I feel like, I was like, I haven't watched them in a really long time. And Nikki and I were talking about it last night when we were talking about that guy. We were like, Nikki's like, we should go back and watch.
Yeah,
and then, like,
I thought about that.
I saw him, people in the replies were like, I'm subscribing to New Japan World because of these tweets and I want to go watch them for myself.
Oh, man.
And several people. And then that guy got so into those matches that he was like, now I want to watch New Japan. Like, I want to see what they're doing. Like, New Japan seems really cool. And somebody was like, this is perfect timing. Boss J is having their final because this was literally like
Dominion
3 hours before Boss J's final, which was this morning, which I have not watched that yet, but it has been spoiled for me.
Oh.
I know I was trying to avoid it, and then I was flipping over to the Power Bombshells account to tweet our 1 hour warning, and I thought I saw something, but then I went to Post Wrestling to pull up Brandon Thurston's article, and it was the very
right there at the beginning.
Yep. Because the first story, clearly R-Truth, but the story underneath it was,
here's your spoiler.
Winner. And I was caught up to Nikki, and I have been like, Nikki, and I was like, this last night would have been perfect because we were just waiting for Collision to come on. We could have just watched Boss J, but no. This is Josiah says I've never heard somebody call it Boss J before, and I love it. It was Clark Connors, right? That was calling it Boss J last
I can't remember who started it.
Somebody was calling it Boss J in their promos. I think it was Clark Connors. Maybe Nikki remembers because Nikki's the one who reminded me. I forgot that it was Boss J, but I want to say it was Clark Connors that started it. I could watch. I'm going to be way wrong. It was going to be somebody completely different, but I think that's who it was. Brad says, I showed 3 of the 4 to my dad, skipped the G1 match due to time, and he loved them. I need to rewatch them again.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, especially if you're going to do 5. It makes sense to sit down with them again. They're so good.
Yes. Yeah, if Okada versus Omega happened at All In, I would get on a plane and fly there just for that match. Listen, my car has been causing me issues, and it's been putting a delay on this, but I am still trying to make it happen. Hopefully me and the universe, we got like 45 days. We'll figure it out. Hopefully. If not, I'll be watching it from home, but we shall see. If the universe wants to help a girl out.
Yeah.
Yes, we are finally almost at G1 season.
Yes, the best time of the year. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Nikki says she doesn't remember who's starting it, just remember saying it a lot. Yeah, I really want to say it was Clark Connors that said it in a promo.
Probably. He's probably doing it on like commentary or something because he's so fun on commentary when you get
Yeah, they did. I really enjoyed Ninja Mac on commentary the other night.
Yeah.
I thought he was really fun. Kevin Knight was really funny. Obviously, we've talked about how he talks about Conor Maru being from the 1900s and knowing some things, which is hilarious. And then Nick Wayne was pretty solid on commentary. It was really nice to kind of see these personalities of them that you don't really get to see, especially because Nick Wayne doesn't really do a whole lot of talking on AEW, and it's usually in response to Christian posted free feet on the internet the other day on his Twitter account. Somebody was like, I think it was Nyla. She was like, you have to charge for that. You can't just be putting free feet on the internet like that, sir. Yes. Take soup regime. Yes. Okay.
Oh, that guy. I was thinking about that today. I was like, remember when he first got here and he was just like loving Cinnabons and we were telling him to buy an air fryer?
Right.
And now he's like in the Evil Don Cal. I was like, what happened to that sweet Cinnabon loving air fryer just moved into his apartment?
I know. And then he confirmed this week, because I had not heard it. I heard about it for the first time like a month or two ago. But he confirmed that he and Yuka Sakazaki are married.
Oh, that's right.
They
secretly got married.
Yeah, and apparently from what the intro, because I heard about like a month or two ago, and I was like, wait, what is this? And then apparently people were saying it was like the worst kept secret on the internet. Then I thought, I don't know if it's true, but somebody said apparently her mom spoiled it online by mistake, and that's how people found out, because her
mom's like in her 70s or 80s and like, look, my daughter got married. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but apparently so.
She's so beautiful. It's like, oh my God, Mom, I'm a wrestler. Oh, okay, honey. Sorry, that's my impression.
Yes, Josiah. The tweets between her and between Yuka and Kyle Fletcher were hilarious. So if you pay attention to the intranets, especially Twitter, Takeshita is Kyle's work husband. They tweet ridiculous things about each other all the time. Kyle is always flirting with Takeshita.
That's adorable.
Takeshita flirts back. And Kyle was like, he quote tweeted it, was like, and Yuka told him he was her rival. I don't know where Sky Blue fits into all this. She probably is just like, whatever, just leave y'all, it's about you, just leave me out of this.
When you're good friends with couples and other people like that, you can sometimes. I've actually unofficially got like multiple husbands because of situations that have gone on at fair. So I've got
and we always talk about Adam Cole has a bunch of boyfriends, and right. I said forever ago that there should be an Adam Cole and a pole match between all of his boyfriends because he has so many of them. See, Brad gets it. Kyle versus Yuka and a Takeshita on a pole match.
There, see, okay. Brad was right there with us the whole way.
And then we can have Adam Cole in a pole match with all his boyfriends. It works.
This is like a wrestling show that needs to be booked like on WrestleMania weekend. That's like a special show where we have all these things, like everyone who's like unofficially married and unofficially adopted in each other's families and stuff. Because I mean, even in my community, we have that with a couple of people. Like Bob and I have an unofficial son that we adopted, and so his real dad, his actual biological dad, will like come over to us and just be like, "Your son, you need to talk to your son." But like literally, like our whole community has adopted this, so it's this jokey thing where it's like, "Did your son give you a Mother's Day present?" It's just like, oh my gosh, I always forget about these things. It's
so fun.
But I love that because I understand that, and it's so important to have community, especially right now. And so I'm glad that I love watching those wrestlers and those people use Twitter for good.
Yes. Oh,
they're having fun with their friends and family.
Yes. Josiah said some of my friends' parents call me my adopted son when they talk about me to my parents back home. That's adorable. I love that.
It's such a good feeling. It's something that you don't realize until someone does it to you. You're like, oh, that's really cool. It's my family.
Right.
USDA
guys dropping some information in here that it's going to come out eventually. Takeshita comes from a wealthy family, so someone was going to talk eventually.
Fair.
Yes. And also, USDA guy, we got busy last week with the Double or Nothing preview, but how did your forced weekend go with Rocky Rocky forcing you to work the Phoenix shows. You have to report back.
That jerk Rocky Romero.
Grace said that he did give you a Mother's Day card. Oh, that was sweet of him.
He did, actually. It was very funny. It was so adorable. So, yes. No, he's a good boy. Yes. He's a first responder too, so he's a good kiddo.
Very good.
He's one of the good ones.
All right. So while we're waiting to see if USBA guy gives us any tea.
He's like, I don't want to say anything bad about Rocky because I don't want to get in trouble and end up having a Chris Charlton moment.
He's like, listen, if you need to DM us, then, we got it. We understand.
You got it. We accept it. We would accept your message.
Oh, see, there we go. Brad said a few months ago he met both Takeshita and Yuka, so he's considering himself their unofficial child.
Oh, perfect. Adopted.
Works for us, Brad.
I like it, Brad.
It is now canon. Brad is the unofficial unofficial child of Takeshita and Yuka. You heard it here first on the Powerbomb Show.
So he likes moonsaults and Cinnabons.
Yes, and German suplexes.
If
you had not heard about it, he wrote a paper on it in college.
I don't know
if you've heard them say this on commentary 9 million times, but he wrote a paper.
I need to go read that now. I did not understand.
He wrote a paper on it in college.
The only problem that if you wrote it in Japanese, the translations are always so terrible.
Right.
So I'm going to have to translate the translator because they don't understand how Japanese is spoken.
Yeah. Speaking of that, this is sort of off topic, and I don't know that anybody in the chat would know this. Is there a website that has the name of moves and how they're properly spelled in Japanese? Because I'm trying to, when I cover collisions, and I don't know how to spell Kamagiri. And I was talking to my editor, and I was like, I knew he would know what I was saying because of the way I spelled it, but I was like, is it with a C? Is it with a K? Is it C-O? Is it C-A? Is it K-O? Is it K-A? And he's like, I don't know. And then I was like, well, I don't know how to write it. Like, I know how to spell Inzaguri. I know how to spell, and now I know, and I was looking through, I was going through New Japan's NJPW World's Twitter, so a lot of it is in Japanese, but they will put the English, so they were putting the names of moves in quotations, and so I now know how to properly spell Ushigoroshi. So I put it in my little list of things, and I finally learned how to spell Cazadora. Took me forever to figure out how to spell it.
Is it with the C?
Like, I tried Googling, how do you spell this? And they're like, they don't, and Google does not know what I'm talking about. And
right.
I need somebody who would know.
We need a wrestling move, a global, international wrestling move translator.
I need a glossary of how to spell Japanese and Mexican moves, because some of the Mexican moves I'm not so sure how to spell. And it'd be
easier with the Mexican moves than the Japanese moves because it's a Latin-based language, but still, you can never know exactly
Yes, thank God it's not just me. Josiah, of all people, is the one who corrected me that I thought the Psycho Knee was also Psycho Knee. I thought that's what they were saying, especially because Tommaso Ciampa was always doing them, and he was the Sicilian Psycho. So I thought
Psycho Knee.
Yes, exactly. That's what I thought. Thank God my sister and I were not the only one, and it was.
That's hilarious. I love it. I remember the first time I was reading a newsletter. I was reading the newsletter and saw Inzaguri written down. And I was like, holy crap, I never thought about how to spell that. But
yes.
Wow.
Vinkin, I didn't know this until I'm glad to help you feel smart. I didn't know this until this was a year or so ago, maybe more, maybe a little bit longer, but it was because I said something about it in Slack, and Josiah was like, it's not Psycho Knee, it's Psycho Knee. And I was like,
that's so awesome.
It's like, my life is a lie.
Tope Suzuki-Sida. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Walker's so funny when
he's
does
great.
I love him. Especially when his it's gotta be the shoes when he's talking about Kevin Knight, or
he is great. I'm so glad that Walker Stewart is a thing. He does such a good job. I'm glad he's excited about it. I think he just got the Stardom gig.
Yes, he did.
He's doing some
global
stuff.
PR for them.
Yeah, yes. So that's awesome. I'm very excited for him. He's cool.
Yeah. Listen. Yes, Fernando, thank you for reminding
we
me.
were just getting to that.
I'm going to rage about that in a moment. However, I want to get to USVA guys since I asked. I want to get to his stories. So he said he worked the Albuquerque Collision and Dynamite. He helped with ticket promotions for the week. They only sold 700 tickets the first 2 weeks. We helped them get to 3,500 in that building. Hell
nice
yeah.
job.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Good work. Keep it up.
Duke City Championship Wrestling, which is the NWA New Mexico affiliate, and our New Japan street team helped out. That's awesome.
Sweet.
So see street teams help. Good.
Shout out to those guys.
Yes.
Thanks for all the help.
Yes. Awesome.
We like to hear that.
Very good. Very good. Especially because they were in as El Paso, was that their first time in El Paso, or have they been there before? I know they've been to Texas and been to other areas, but I can't remember if El Paso, I can't remember if that was their first time there. But regardless, they clearly needed your help selling only 700 tickets. So but selling 3,500 tickets in 2 weeks is no small feat.
Awesome.
So
Nice job.
That's awesome. Good for them. Yes. So thank you for reminding me, Fernando, because it's in my notes in all caps, and I just was not looking at it.
You did put it in all caps, can confirm.
I did put it in our notes.
Made me chuckle when I opened up the notes, and she's like, "Where the hell is Eddie?" in capital letter.
I was big. I think I might have been more mad about that than I was about Mercedes and Athena not happening.
Yeah.
And I was not mad. I just was disappointed.
I know what you mean.
That hurt my. It made me disappointed because I wanted it so bad. And I told y'all I might be playing myself. I told y'all that last Sunday. I might have played myself for months, and I did. I was like, can't confirm. I played myself, and then Eddie wasn't there, and it made me really sad.
But you're not alone. See?
Yes, USVA guy. So a lot of people were backstage that they haven't seen a while, an AEW in a while. I'm glad. That's really cool. I hope it wasn't
nice when you get to see people you haven't seen in a long time.
I hope it was an overall good experience for you.
Well, that's like, like when you're doing fairs and stuff, it's kind of one of those things where you really have to embrace, like, and theater taught me this too, is you have to embrace the time that you're there, because that cast or that group of people, after a few weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is, we're all going to break up, and we don't know if we're going to get to work together and hang out together and see each other again, and when that happens.
Right. Well, and then we kind of like, that was kind of our thing. We've talked, with PWX, when that was our local promotion, like these were the people we saw once a month, every single month. And even if that's the only place that we saw them, like we could count on every single month. And then when they were doing the even the Pure shows, which were running in this little tiny building, like we would see those group of people. So sometimes, and now like we lost that. So not only did we lose like the wrestling, but we lost these people, and like some of these people I have not seen since, and a couple of them luckily have come to Ashe shows, or we've seen them when DPW was in Charlotte. And like a quick side note is Javon Evans made his debut on SmackDown on Friday, and if you had told me, if you've watched the show, you know that I talked about, I saw him when he was 15 years old, wrestle in that very tiny building. And I knew then that I was blown away when Darius told me how old he was, when he was like, no, he's 15. I was like, what do you mean he's 15? He's already that good. So like, I knew he was going to get signed, but I would not have predicted in 5 years time, he would debut on Collision. To even blow my mind even more, he debuted alongside in a tag team with Ray Phoenix, which clearly 5 years ago, Ray Phoenix was in AEW. So this is not something 5 years ago my mind comprehended. So then it all just to see him, and he had a good match. He looked great. Ray Phoenix looked great. They wrestled Los Garza. Los Garza did win that match, but because of outside interference. But and he's getting ready. Javon's getting ready to wrestle on Worlds Collide, which is why they had him make his debut. But it was just like, and so that you think, so these are little things that you saw in this building. And then like, again, like Hangman Adam Page, like this is a guy that I watched wrestle in small venues in Charlotte in his little John Deere hat. He used to come out to Song of the South by Alabama.
He might end up the AEW World Champion for the second time.
For the second time. He's arguably about to have the biggest match of his career.
Yeah.
He has this redemption story. He is this person that is like nearly universally loved by wrestling fans, or at least AEW fans, and like just to see that trajectory, just to see where he started out these tiny venues and he went here. And again, like, and I've talked about, I saw Cedric Alexander and rec centers, and he made it all the way to WrestleMania. Like, these are just insane little things. And of course, that, you know, those stories are, on the one hand, they are kind of common because, you know, they all start somewhere. But then on the other hand, there's so many wrestlers and they don't get to do these things, and they are lucky if they even get signed by any company for that matter. And so it's just an insane thing to see. And
I was thinking, because we saw Toni Storm in like 2017 at the Hall.
Right.
And she came out, and I just remember because her presence was so huge, and everyone was singing the song for her because it was, you know, I was my first time with the Progress show, but clearly there were Progress fans. I was just like, wow, this girl, she is awesome. This is so awesome. And now, oh my gosh, she's still so awesome, but she's leveled up. Like, she's a boss now. Tony's a boss. Yeah. Even just seeing her in person with those, like, everybody's into her. She's doing amazing things. It's like hard to hate her.
Yeah.
She's
except for Brad says that Kathy still doesn't like Hangman for turning on Kenny.
You know, maybe someday Kathy will get a redemption arc on that one.
And listen, Kathy knows what she likes.
Yeah.
And she knows what she doesn't like. And good for her for standing on business. She knows that. Good for her. I'm not hold that against her. I don't. I agree. Kathy, I understand.
That's a totally fair position.
That's a totally fair position. I get it, Kathy.
Totally.
Yeah. The USDA guy said that there was a bunch of people backstage that sorry, that was not the comment I meant to read. I meant to go back to the next one. Sorry, scroll too far up. It's a crazy amount of people that fly out to shows but don't appear. Yeah. I can imagine. And then he said, one name that I'll give you that I can actually mention was Jack Fury. It's obvious that he's in Tony's doghouse, which has been kind of what was.
So that's true, huh? That's kind of what we thought.
Right.
So he's still mad at him for breaking him up with CM Punk.
I think that there was, I mean,
it's just, I don't know that. I have no idea.
Yeah. Who knows? I still thought if Jack was anywhere near returning, Anarchy in the Arena would have been a good place to do it because of the story that had been told with the Young Bucks abandoning him, that whole thing. Yes, Curryhead, they did burst my bubble with my predictions.
Carnies and Theater Kid types they tend to be a little incestuous and a little cliquey and a little it just comes with the territory.
Yeah. I enjoyed the show when they burst my bubble. Yeah, we did get the return of Hook, but yeah, so back to Eddie Kingston. I was really sad. It's just especially because then it became why the hell is Gabe Kidd here? If you are not building for Eddie's return, what was the point of that? You wasted an opportunity. I mean, clearly, if Eddie is not ready, he's not ready. Like, I know he's been working. I know the original timetable for him, I believe, was August. I know he's been working hard to come back faster. However, they planted this. It seemed like, okay, clearly Gabe Kidd's going to have a match at Forbidden Door. It seemed like that person was going to be Eddie Kingston because he injured Eddie Kingston and put him on the shelf and took his title. And so it seemed like this was going to be the natural thing. But again, as we've talked about, Gabe Kidd in storyline hates AEW. He hates everything they stand for. He loves New Japan. He's never leaving them. Yes, you can say, and I know the story technically is he works for Jon Moxley, not AEW. However, that story is still, they lost, so now what is it? You know, then we get him, and he's in a triple threat match a trios match on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I assume when we'll talk about Mariah May more briefly, but I guess because she's gone, now they'll bring in Gabe Kidd.
Yeah, I guess.
And I had considered that prior, and I was like, are we getting Gabe Kidd because Mariah's not around? They waited till she was not going to be here. This is before we knew she signed it. They know so they're like, okay, now we can bring him in. Now it's fine. And so now she's gone. So fight means more Gabe Kidd. So
yeah,
I don't know.
It's so weird because the person who I got, like, someone that's really right all the time, when I was like, I asked about it in a chat that I have, and I was like, what do you think about this? And they said that they thought that Mariah was gone. And I was like, and I waited and I waited and I waited. And then I heard the news and I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
Like, because I hate it when you, like, sometimes when you hear it from someone that's like virtually, like, their track record's just really, it's like, damn it.
Yeah.
Damn it. Because I mean, I hope she got paid. I hope she's happy. It's the same as I say all the time. It's like, fair play to her. Go get paid. Go do what you need to do. I hope that WWE treats her right. I hope that she got what she wants out of it. I hope she gets what she wants out of it.
Her contract is not up yet. As of what I saw from Body Slam, there's not her.
She can't show up.
She's supposed to be there imminently, but her contract is not up yet, or at least at the time of that article yesterday. Perhaps it's like June 12th or something. I mean, like,
they did take her off of the website.
They did take her off of the website,
and that usually, I guess,
that was
from
the
their
signal
history,
that it was confirmed that she was not resigning. And then there was a report, or there's a rumor out there. I don't know that this has been confirmed, but there was something that she supposedly told Tony Khan between the second and third matches with Tony Storm that she was not re-signing her contract. And so that's why they booked the Hollywood ending to be the end of the story. There was certain people on the internet say that that's why they were not the main event, is because he didn't want to give it to her when she was leaving. But this person who says the one person who I saw say that, their track record is mostly good. However, sometimes not so much. I would need more than that person's word to confirm it. Would I be surprised? No, not at all. Is that the actual reason? According to this person, yes. I don't know for sure. But supposedly, so then people also point back to the promo that Tony Storm cut on her when they were sitting backstage with, not backstage, but they did the pre-filmed interview with Renee. And she told her, I sentence you to a life of mediocrity. People think it's because she knew already that Tony Storm knew that Mariah was done. And so she told her, she said, people will like you. They will love you. But they will always wonder what happened to her. And then she said, I sentence you to a life of mediocrity. And so now people are thinking.
That's interesting because, especially given that Tony was there, she went to WWE and it was a disaster.
It was awful for her.
They did a terrible job booking her. The stuff they did to her is almost Shorty G level of stupid.
So
it's not quite that bad. I know he doesn't exist. He who shall not be named Chad Gable.
Name's Chad Gable. He's not a lucha wrestler either.
Yeah, that is so.
His name
dumb.
is Chad Gable.
That what El Americano or whatever he's.
Yeah, he's got there's a possibility. So since we're talking about this, on Raw they're doing qualifying matches for Money in the Bank because Money in the Bank is Saturday. Chad Gable did not qualify. He lost because of Vikingo. Vikingo already had a match at Worlds Collide. That's how they it was spoiled, but apparently they geo-blocked it in Mexico, so they didn't know. So Vikingo was scheduled to wrestle Alberto Del Rio, who is the current AAA Mega Champion in Mexico. They had the tapings this week. The tapings had not happened. So on Monday, WWE announces Vikingo versus Chad Gable will be for the AAA Mexican Championship. Vikingo did not have the title when they made this match. The match had not happened yet.
Oh, lovely.
So we were like, they spoiled it. Apparently, it was geo-blocked in Mexico, so the fans in Mexico did not know because the taping happened last night, or it aired last night, and so Vikingo is now the champion.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
Get your shit together,
so
guys. You're like a professional.
So they're having this match at World's End, which is at 3 p.m. on Saturday. Money in the Bank is the 8 o'clock pay-per-view. Well, Grande Americano is wrestling this Monday against CM Punk and AJ Styles. So it is possible that El Americano Grande will qualify for the ladder match and will wrestle as Chad Gable on Worlds Collide on the 3 p.m. show, and then on the 8 p.m. show wrestle as a Lucha in the Money in the Bank match. That is a possibility that could be happening, that he could be wrestling both shows back to back on Saturday.
Okay. Cool.
So,
right on.
Yeah. So that is a thing that could be
bang on.
Yeah. So those are things that are happening in WWE. And again, as I pointed out on Friday, I can't remember. I don't remember what in particular annoyed. Oh, it was the John Cena, Logan Paul, Cody Rhodes, Jay segment that it made me. I was so annoyed that I just said, "Thank God I get paid to watch this."
Yeah, seriously, I'm glad you do. I really am. I mean, I know that but I'm so grateful that you're not just subjecting yourself to that for no reason.
I don't. Yeah, that's the only. Again, it just watching. I was like, this is why I only watch this because because of capitalism and I need to pay my bills.
Otherwise, I can't even now.
No, I mean, there's also all the other reasons like corporate.
I know why.
Just wrestling wise, like this is not the type of wrestling that I enjoy.
That you would, yeah. It's just not for you.
It's just not.
At least you're covering it objectively, which is like a challenge for you because you're challenging yourself as a journalist. It's okay.
Go. And thankfully, my editors there are understanding. They know they let me, and within reason, they let me say what I like to say about them. Like,
I think you do a good job. I think you're pretty professional about it.
And there are things that I do love, and I do talk about this. Like, I love what they're doing with Naomi. I love her character. I love everything they're doing with her. That's actually what I wrote about on Friday. I love the SmackDown men's tag team division, in part because Motor City is there, but also they actually are trying to give a damn about tag team wrestling on SmackDown. Nice. So I love this. So, and the Wyatt Six came back and they returned on Bray Wyatt's birthday, and they had a birthday cake.
That's
for
right.
him.
That's a good moment for you.
There are little tiny things that make it worthwhile, make it tolerable, I will say. Not maybe worthwhile, because
you can find silver linings in it because there are silver linings there. There are things that you know well enough. And I mean, again, I think it's if nothing else, it's a good challenge for you as a journalist because you have to do really, really good journalism when you're doing something where you're like, I don't necessarily want to cover this, but I have to because of these things. Like you're going to run into that your whole career.
And the love-hated article that is opinion based. So I can be.
You get to put your opinions.
I can. So I got when they did the Liv Morgan storyline that mirrored Janel Grant's lawsuit, I had the freedom because it was an opinion piece. I had the freedom to say what I thought about it. And apparently, just recently, last Monday, I apparently pissed somebody off because
not you.
I was like, they've already put Roxanne Perez, who just got caught up, is officially on the Raw brand. They've already put her in the vortex that is Dominic Mysterio. And I called it the Dominic vortex. And apparently that really pissed somebody off. Because listen, I don't read the comments because I don't care. It's just their opinions it's not my problem. If you don't,
most of those people are not coming from a place.
I get it. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine. I'm not going to read it. Well, this person, Nikki, actually is the one who thought, because Wrestling Inc. obviously tweets out the articles. Well, and sometimes I will look at the replies.
Yeah, sometimes there's a
lot of spam responses. So I didn't even bother looking. And Nikki was like, this, you pissed this dude off. He's mad that you called it the Dominic Vortex. And he was like, and he went on to say that Dominic Mysterio made Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. Because he said that something about Liv being with Dom cemented her as a heel, and that Rhea would not have gotten over the mommy character without him.
Oh God, get out of here! Like one of the best, one of the best literal matches on the entire WrestleMania weekend was the freaking Rhea Ripley match.
Thanks to Dom Mysterio for putting her in that position.
Thanks, Dom, for making sure that. Are you? Listen, I wasn't watching religiously. I saw Rhea Ripley get over. I don't watch regularly. I watched when I watched, and then I've watched occasionally, and I've watched because it's a special case. Rhea Ripley got over on her own damn self. Like she got herself over. Thank you, I Make Beats. That is absurd. That's what, but see, this is why it's fun to, like, for me or Nikki, like, I'm sure because Nikki is like, yeah, you pissed this guy off. This is hilarious. It's fun to point and laugh at the trolls like you and BJ Catch because they get fixated on some of the most inane BS ever. And you're just like, I don't feed the trolls, but I do want to point and laugh at them sometimes because they deserve it. They genuinely put up utter nonsense.
They do. So yeah, so Jenner says,
imagine getting upset because a writer, any writer, used the phrase the Dominic Mysterio vortex.
And it was in jest. Like it was just, I thought it was, I was right. It's like I was right because, like, yes, I'm annoyed that they.
So that person owned their self for you.
So like Roxanne is a real, like, I am super annoyed that they put Roxanne is a legitimate wrestling prodigy. She is very good, and Dom has been this person that, like, Liv's story revolved around him versus her belt. I get it. She's trying to take everything Rhea had, including her man. Like, I get it, but they play like that belt was a prop. They didn't care that she was the champion. It was more that she was the girlfriend of Dominic Mysterio. But, like, so Roxanne, Liv's still there. Like, that was part of it. Liv went to film a movie, like, legitimately. She was in Japan for like 3 weeks. And so Roxanne it's well known that Dominic Mysterio is a big fan of chicken nuggets. So Roxanne brings him chicken nuggets. That's how they bring this in. Well, then last week, she does it again. She brings him this whole platter. Liv returns. And then this starts this whole, we didn't think you were going to be here. It doesn't mean anything. And just like this kind of dumb shit. This is what you're putting Roxanne Perez in. This is what you're doing with her.
Of course.
You're with her. And so that's where the frustration came from. And so I was just thinking about it in terms of, and of course, I guess because of the Jericho vortex, like, he didn't like the connotation of the two, but they are similar. And that's why I used the word that I used. And also it kind of was just, it just came to me while I was writing.
That's
and
funny.
Dom's that it's fun to boo him at arenas and for audience participation, but we don't actually care. Yeah,
so true. No, it's the idea that was the reverse. It's just total. That's like the inanity that goes on with these, like, WWE brain, as we so affectionately call them, the Vincels.
Right.
That's WWE brain at its absolute.
Oh, it 100% is.
That's so silly. You're literally flipping the script.
I still will fall back into WWE brain because I was conditioned by it.
Right, of course, yes. And occasionally, we all have we were patterned. We were conditioned. It was just like all our other habits that get written in our brains. Like that went down to. They are ridiculous. Yeah. They are funny. Other than Hob the troll, who is a nice troll.
Right. I don't condone drug testing, but test him for making the trollest statement of all time.
They love people who own their self, though, by making the points where they're like, I just said something I think is intelligent, but really I just proved that I'm a total dork.
Yes. And every Dom story is a love triangle instead of how using any of these titles.
So basically none of them pass the Bechdel test. Is that what I'm hearing?
No. And then Jenner says also Roxanne is miscast as a heel, and this is what I was partially worried about when they turned her. Yes. And then Vincent says, don't worry. After Roxanne, Dom will go with the next hot thing that they call it from NXT. Looking at you, Mariah May.
Oh, God. Have you guys thought up any names for her?
Mariah March is what I saw somebody say.
Mariah March. Mariah April.
Yes. And so
Mariah
again, like,
January.
My biggest, like, so again, as we talked about,
June.
Right,
My name is
exactly.
April May.
Yeah, Nikki said that the dude quote tweeted himself, I guess, because he was looking for somebody to agree with him, and so the guy
quote tweeted himself. That's the biggest red flag ever.
Brad said, "Stop." Brad says Mariah May will be April Shower. I think we said April May. And yes, no, you're not wrong. He said, can we get a Dom storyline that doesn't involve his family or who he's sleeping with? Excuse me for saying it. No, it's true. It's literally what his... And I also want to remind you, I mean, not that it matters, but Dominic Mysterio is married in real life, and his character revolves, and clearly I know his wife understands the storyline.
Sure, of course.
Apparently there was a big thing for Netflix last night where they were doing all these previews for shows and things like that. And they apparently, one of the things had like I guess it was at the Netflix thing, I could be wrong, but there was a kiss cam for Love is Blind. And
what year is it?
Liv kissed Dom on this kiss cam. I mean, it was just like a quick kiss. Clearly, he's a married man, so it was just a quick little. But
no,
still,
I get it. That's like, we were listening to the radio on our way to something yesterday. Oh, we went to fair yesterday, and on the radio we were listening, and they literally, there was a commercial for psychics, and I was like, is it the 80s again? Are we serious? Like, because Bob and I were both sitting there and we both stopped dead silent, and they kept talking, and it was like, okay, we heard them right. They did say the best psychics in America, available 24/7. And both of us were like, did we just drive into a time warp and end up in 1989?
Apparently
is Dionne Warwick back? What's happening here?
On the other, yes, apparently so. Dionne is on Twitter, and she's funny. She's very funny on there.
I will go check that out.
Yes, Brad said Dom hooking up with the hot young things. Is he playing CM Punk? Somebody said that the other day, that they were basically making him cosplay CM Punk back in the day, because CM Punk was quite the ladies' man back in the day at OVW and in WWE. So that's what they were joking about. But so I was starting to say, yes, thank you, I Make Beats. Definitely happy Pride Month to all who celebrate.
Pride Month, very important.
We are, as if you missed our conversation earlier, you are supported here. This is a place for you here at Power Bombshells and at Fight Game Media in general.
Yeah.
So yes, and we are with you, especially with all of the things that are happening right now to erase you and all those things. So yeah.
Yep.
But.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So going no. It was weird transitioning from that into what I'm about to say. I don't want it to feel like we're just like casually, leaving that off. But so the thing with Mariah, like, again, yes, get paid, girl. That's literally what Mercedes is trying to do, is get women paid. She has said that, making it more equitable wherever you wrestle. Get paid, make bank. That's your dream job. I am happy for you. I have no issue with that. Same thing with Motor City signing there. Get paid, get what you deserve. I hope you are happy. I hope it makes you happy. My concern, obviously, is how they book the women in that company. Roxanne is a testament to that. Liv Morgan is a testament to that, as the way that they're currently booking. And so that is my fear for Mariah, is that she will not be able to thrive in the way she should be, because she is a star. I feel like she is a star. She's very good. She's a very good character. She's very talented in the ring. She can wrestle. Clearly, she's gonna not be able to do some of it. Like, no kissing women will be happening here.
Oh God, no.
Like, none of that will be happening. The kinds of matches she was having I mean, she was in some really brutal matches, and the Hollywood ending, like they did some really bloody stuff. Generally, probably not something you will see from her there. I'm just worried that my concern is just that they're gonna miss that either she's gonna get misbooked, and also she's gonna get lost in the shuffle because they've called up Roxanne. Julia just got called up and she's signed to SmackDown. Jordynne Grace is reportedly on her way to SmackDown. They've also Stephanie Vacker is getting called up to Raw. So they have like all these incredibly talented women, but I don't know what they're going to do with them.
Right.
That's my concern is like, and again, I mean, AEW has that same issue. Like there's all these talented women and they have, their issues, and that's just an issue you have in general. So I'm worried that with those type of talents, with Julia, with Stephanie Vacker, with Roxanne, Io Sky is one of the current champions. Obviously, so is Tiffany Stratton. Charlotte Flair is back, and she's working her way back again for the title. Becky Lynch is back. She's obviously she's in the story with Lyra Valkyria right now. Bayley is temporarily out, but she'll probably be back. And so again, like you list all these talent, and they're incredibly talented women, but WWE doesn't always have the best track record when it comes to booking women, especially as of late. And I feel like a lot of it is Evolution 2. Still think they're setting it up to fail. I assume Mariah's contract, because what I had heard was her contract is up in the summer. Then what I heard yesterday was that her contract is still not up. I don't know when it ends. I assume if it's up in time, she will be at Evolution 2. They will probably put a belt on her. Because JC Jane just, so they did. It is another example of how, because NXT, I will say NXT and Shawn Michaels are better at booking women than the main roster is. But Stephanie Vacker, she just wrestled Jordynne Grace at Stand and Deliver, retained her title. Then on NXT, she wrestled JC Jane and dropped it.
Yeah.
Which is a surprise, obviously, to everybody. And I get it. They're trying to put this, anything can happen at any time, which I get it. But then also now, knowing that Mariah's on her way, and it kind of feels like, oh, JC's just a temporary champion because Mariah is coming, is kind of what it feels like. And so I feel like, Evolution 2, they're going to be stacked. They're going to have all these incredible women on there, which good for them. And again, I hope as I mentioned last week, I hope the women are successful. I hope they have great matches. I hope the fans who do go love it. And I hope that they get the support that they don't get from the people in charge, because the people in charge don't give a shit. They're just, it almost feels like they're doing again when AEW first started and they were stacking people in NXT so that they could not get signed. And it feels like this is what's going to happen again, where they're stacking these rosters, but then they're not really going to do anything with them. So I don't know. I hope the best for Mariah. I hope she proves me wrong. I hope that they book her. I hope they book Stephanie. I hope they book Jordan. Like these women are so talented, and they deserve to be booked well. And I'm not saying that AEW would do a better job of that or anything like that. I'm just saying, as far as what is currently happening in WWE's booking, I am concerned about what happens to Mariah May, because Mariah May, I don't know that they will give her, because the story she had with Timeless Toni Storm is one of the greatest women's wrestling, not just women, but just one of the greatest stories AEW has ever told.
Yeah.
And so and you go from that to this unknown, which I guess is part of the challenge of being, a wrestler and a talent, is challenging yourself to these things. Like maybe she felt like, you know what, this is the furthest I can go in AEW. I had this incredible storyline. I was the women's champion. That's it. I've peaked, and maybe she felt like she peaked in AEW. I want to go live out my dream of being a WWE superstar. And I don't want her for that. If that is, how she feels about it, I just hope that
good.
I just hope she's happy there, and I hope that they do right by her and by the other women there, because that is always a concern. And then, so I got a question for you. Do you feel like the PLE is going to sell a lot of tickets? I don't. It depends on, we talked about this last week. It depends on the size of the venue. Like, is this a small venue? Because I still don't know. Is this a small venue that holds 1,200 people? Then sure, they might. Again, it's directly across the street from the Beyonce concert, from Cowboy Carter, who is doing a 4-show residency in Atlanta. Also the same weekend as the MLB All-Star Game. Again, I'm probably one of the few people that like would want to attend all 3 of these things.
Yeah, right.
I know it's a very small, broad market.
I don't know. I know a lot of people like you that
like if I had the funds and could be in all the places at once, like yeah, I would go to the Cowboy Carter concert. I'd probably try to go on a different night. That way I could go, and then I would like to be there for the All-Star festivities. And I would love to go to, an all women's wrestling show. Again, I'm not giving that company my money. That that's another part of it. But but I'm concerned that it's not going to sell well, regardless of the number of tickets, because they waited 7 weeks. Somebody had tweeted me on or posted on. They had responded to me on Blue Sky and was like, if I had enough time, I would have asked off for work and have gone, but they didn't give me enough time, so I can't. And I feel like he's not the only. There were people who flew in for the first Evolution who went to cover it. There were people who flew in for Mickie James's women's show. People flew into those to support women's wrestling, and I feel like it just comes off as a very here damn type of situation. They'll try to sell some tickets, like if. Maybe part of it is, hey, Mariah May might debut here. I will buy a ticket. Like, so they're counting on some of that. I think they're being purposely set up to fail so they can say, hey, I told you women's wrestling wasn't a draw, because that's what they did the last time. They don't care. They don't care about women's wrestling. They don't. And so yes. It feels like a cash grab, and I do not like a cash grab. Me either. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like, I want these women to succeed. I'm so happy that they're getting an all-women's show, and I hope they have really great matches. But the company who is putting this show on does not care about them. They don't.
It's a prop.
It is. And it is a counter booking to AEW. That is the real story here, is not that they care about women's wrestling and want to promote it. It's they're counter booking AEW's one of their biggest shows of the year, and it's their biggest show that they've ever had in the United States. It is the day, and yes, it's the day after, but they are counter booking it so that people will be like, and I've seen people on social media say, I can't decide if I want to go to All In or if I want to go to Evolution. I have seen a couple of people, and maybe it's a small fraction that I've seen people, and then they were leaning towards going. Now they're leaning towards going to Evolution because of the because it's and so they're leaning towards that, and it feels very much like it is just they are using the women to counter book there, because that weekend is the NXT show is at 3 p.m., which will go head to head with All In, because All In starts at 3 p.m. on July 12th. They are putting NXT to go head to head. Then they are running Saturday night main event, and that is apparently. The rumor is that's where Goldberg is showing up to do his final match. Is going to be, because it's in Atlanta, that they're going to finally do the match with Gunther there. And then the next day, they are going to do Evolution when people are traveling, for the people who are traveling home from AEW and are in Texas and can't get to Atlanta. Like and they're doing it exactly at the exact same time as the Cowboy Carter tour, literally across the street. The more they do these things, it just tells me they're using these women as a cash grab, as you said. That's the perfect way. It's counter programming and it's a cash grab. And counter grabbing programming is Bush League. And I joked about this the other night, because GCW is running a show opposite Supercard of Honor in Dallas, and one of the matches is Mance Warner versus Ricky Morton for the first time, and I quote tweeted it and said, "Oh, you're counter booking Supercard of Honor with Southern Wrestling."
Good Lord!
I was like, clearly,
really, Brett Lauderdale, really.
I was like, "Oh, so you're counter booking that show?" But
really,
it made me laugh that they were doing. But yeah, it's gross. They're already talking about counter programming. they're gonna apparently they're gonna run in Philly the week before the 2300 Arena residency starts. They're already plotting to do a show a week prior to that, where I'm sure they're gonna book RVD because he's on a Legends deal.
Of course
and
they are.
And RVD was talking. He was talking crap about the John Moxley bat spot and how this man who was in ECW wrestled Sabu out here talking about how that match was we didn't need to be doing things like that. All right, so
I know you've had some problems neurologically. You might not remember that you did the same kinds of matches. So.
Right. Exactly. So yeah. So I absolutely see them booking, and probably some other ECW guys.
But they're not a threat, Sam. Though.
That's what I've been told.
They're not a threat, though.
Not rent.
Because why would you counterbook? Exactly right. Rent free indeed.
Brad says WWE countering AEW to oversaturate their own product. They almost had no effect on Double or Nothing. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I was like, all you're doing is watering down your own product, which at this point they don't care because they've got the Netflix deal. Ratings don't matter. SmackDown is not moving to 2 hours like it was supposed to be because USA needs that extra hour of advertising dollars. So now I have to suffer, me and my fellow writers who have been counting on SmackDown going back to 2 hours.
No, sorry,
got delivered a blow when they said they had no plans to move it, and it's already a chore. It is a literal chore to get through that show 99% of the time. There'll be like one or two good things. Like I joked on Friday that they peaked at 8:14 p.m. because they did an opening segment with Bianca Belair and Naomi that was really well done. And then it went into the qualifying match because Bianca is still injured from her WrestleMania match, and she's still got her finger wrapped. So they just brought her out because she was in Knoxville, which is her hometown. But like they did all these really good stuff, and there are a few other good spots that they did. But then it's just like you're peaking at 8:14 p.m. on a Friday night in a 3-hour show. That's a big problem. And then Josiah said, "I counterbooked WWE once, then I took an arrow to the knee." Sorry, deep cut geek reference.
Yes, it's lovely.
Jermaine says, when do you using your female wrestlers and counter programming blows up in WWE's faces? I don't know. I feel like it's gonna. I hate this for the women because they are being used. They don't care about them. They don't. They don't care about them, and that's why. And I get it. We've talked about it so many times. In the U.S., there are two options to make money and make big money and get on TV. So as much as you have all these choices outside of, wrestling, and you can wrestle pretty much anywhere now, but if you want to make good money and be on big TV, you've got two options. And Bad Man Gone is really appealing for a lot of these people because they're like, well, he's not there anymore.
He's not there anymore.
Never mind the fact that Michael Hayes, who in Janelle's amended lawsuit received content from her that she says she was forced to make. Michael Hayes is still a writer for SmackDown. He writes a lot of stuff and he's still there. Other people that are complicit are still there, which is just the nature of the wrestling business in general. Because you can look at Speaking Out, and a lot of those people are complicit with those wrestlers and trying to let them back in and all of that stuff. So on the one hand, like, I feel like as a woman, like, why the hell would you go wrestle for that company? But then on the other hand, you got two options, and they're gonna, as wrestlers and as business people, they're gonna look past certain things to do. If that's just the one thing holding them back, well, Bad Man Gone. So, and other Bad Man fired and thrown under the bus. So it's,
problem solved. Okay. Bye.
Right. And so, I'm not, it's not me having to make those decisions. That's not something that maybe they don't wrestle with at all. Maybe that doesn't concern them. Maybe they're just like, you know what? I got to get paid somehow. I got live in late stage capitalism. I got kids. I got a mortgage. I got a partner. Like, there's all of these factors that go into it. And so for us on the outside looking in, obviously we can see things a bit differently, but I just don't, it's hard to say, how are you as a woman going to work for that company knowing the history of the way that they treat women? Because Janel is not new. It's been going on. There's Ashley Massaro, multiple NDAs. There's Rita Chatterton, things with her. These are, again, the women that we know about. And so, I mean, but again, we're also in the thick of this because this is the story we've been reporting. So it's in the front of our minds a lot of times where these wrestlers, maybe that's not so much something, or
it's thinking about.
Yeah, and they can compartmentalize it to do what they got to do. So it's just, yeah. Brad the WWE is asking people to watch AEW Dark the week before AEW Dynamite shows. Yes, NXT is going to suffer all in weekend. Fernando said, is Eric Bischoff running WWE secretly? This is what he did when he was in charge of WCW.
I mean, like it. Probably not, but it doesn't mean they aren't going to repeat the same stuff over again,
Yeah. Josiah says the perception is shifting a bit with WWE booking the ECW arena and counter booking All In. It seems that the perception is shifting back to AEW being the babyface company, so to speak. Oh, you mean they're not the pissant company?
They're not going under right now?
Yeah, I thought Tony had a perfect answer to that at the scrum when they asked about the counter booking, and he was like, this is the most he's seen it done since the Jim Crockett era, but the ending is going to be different. Amen. Which, what I heard from that answer was, it's so on brand that this is happening, and I'm not even surprised.
Yeah, I mean, they had to expect that.
And that means I'm doing my job correctly. And Tony has gotten really into, I mean, maybe it's because there's so much going on, but Tony has finally got where he is not saying ridiculous things on social media where you're like, please just, I get it, but maybe put the phone down a little bit. He's putting his head down. He's focusing on his shows since he has taken over creative. And he was talking about that on the media call. Like, he was like, nah, it's me on creative. Like, he's got some people helping him, but like, he's saying no more often. He's going with his vision of what the company should look like. Storylines have been better. A lot of the booking has been better between Dynamite and Collision. I think, as much as I miss Rampage and John Moxley killing it, I think maybe on the one hand, that's one less show that he has to worry about. But on the other hand, that's where we got a lot of women's storylines being built. And that's where we got to see Butcher. If you wanted to see the Butcher wrestle, you got to watch Rampage. Yeah, and Josiah says that WWE is not helping their own PR at the moment, which is saying something since they do good previously, making people hate AEW. Yeah, those travel lists are still there. That reminds me of something that I saw because I finally got around to, because we needed something to watch on Friday and we're caught up on Boss J. I finally went and watched Jeff Cobb's last match, and I finally went and watched Naito and Bushi's last matches. And I was listening to the backstage comments, and Tana said that he was like, I get it that people love these wrestlers and you want them to stay here forever, but sometimes they can't, and that is okay. And that made me think, I was like, this is some tribal, like this is, New Japan. And then I was like, clearly this is something we need to hear. Some fans need to be reminded of with the Mariah May situation, because now people are turning, shocking to no one, they're turning on her, saying she was terrible, she wasn't that good, she only got over because of Toni Storm, like just trashing her, saying she didn't deserve to be the champion. They should have put it on, Willow, because Willow would have never just done things.
Come on.
But then, so it just brings me back to that tribalism of like Tana is having to tell, and I'm not saying that New Japan has tribalism, but it just reminded me of the tribalism in general in wrestling, where Tana's like, hey, like, it's okay.
Things change. Change happens. It's okay. You're going to have to deal with it because it's inevitable.
Yeah. No, I did not say Yakuza Belair. I did. I mean, at least I hope I didn't say that. Brad says that Nick Khan said WWE is the underdog, and that's how they're booking these shows, like they're playing from behind. What a joke. They are a joke.
True story.
That man is a joke.
That's awful. Just silly. That's that self-made BS. No, you're not.
Oh, God. Get out of here. Oh, God. That's what Logan Paul was talking about. He's talked about how him and John Cena are self-made and how Cody and Jey Uso are nothing but Nepo babies. And that's the only reason that they have titles and are
Oh boy.
And that he, like John Cena, is self-made. And I thought I was gonna, and that comment I think is what brought on the thank God I get paid to watch this. I think that comment there is what it made me so irritated.
You're like, I'm so glad someone's giving me Federal Reserve notes to do this.
Yeah, he's like, I keep forgetting that Nick is, as long as Nick there, Michael PSA is there as some of the people that are brought in from the previous,
WWE gonna WWE.
Yeah. Yes, the focus on creative has really helped AEW over the last few months, for sure. Okay. Yeah, and Curry had said, this is the first time I got to give credit to Tony. He's producing quality product and he's gearing that company to do something that hasn't been done in nearly 40 years.
Yep.
For sure. Fernando says both companies are running the risk of burning the casual fans out on wrestling. I mean, I suppose that's a fair point, but I mean, I think at this point, WWE is doing a little bit more by counter booking everything and oversaturating the market. Josiah says they were seeing WWE go back and do stuff that they were doing back in 2021. Yeah, banishing Mariah for leaving doesn't make any sense. Yeah, they do it every time. They do it to wrestlers all the time. And like one of the ones I see a lot is Ricochet, obviously, and then they're mad at Samantha Urban because
she takes so much shit that she does not deserve. I want to kill her.
Saturday. So Carmelo Hayes, I talk about this all the time. Carmelo Hayes does not get booked the way that he should get booked. He gets just booked in really stupid things. Like he's stuck with the Miz right now.
God,
he's stuck.
Sorry.
And he has been for a while. And he should be. And so Victor Taylor Perry, he's the one who his students are in the wrestling club. He was tweeting the other day about Carmelo Hayes and how he deserves better and blah, blah, blah. So Ricochet responds and he was like, but he's on television. Shouldn't that be in it? Like all of these things, but he's saying it in the way that fans talk about Ricochet. Like he's saying it the way wrestling fans sometimes like, well, they're on TV. Shouldn't that be enough? Why does he want more? Is he greedy? Like, so these type of things, the amount of people who did not realize that Ricochet was parroting how they speak to people and how they speak to him and Samantha was so funny. They're like, oh, you're just bitter. And WWE, you didn't amount to anything in WWE and you're not doing anything in AEW. And like, so he of course is responding. It was like, no, I'm doing great. I did win titles in WWE. Like I did these things, but it was just funny because that response like that he gave him was clearly very much just he
was being facetious and they just took it totally seriously because they don't understand that because they don't leave their houses very often.
Yeah. And so they just took it as, and he clearly was not at all, he was not being serious. It was very obvious from reading it. Like that's what he's doing. He responded to him the way that other wrestling fans respond
to him all the time.
Right. And how they respond and how they
same pattern, same BS, same bananas crap. Yeah. It's so funny. He's not wrong. That's like the funniest thing about commenters. They think they're original and they literally aren't.
Right. Yeah. No, they're not at all. They've heard it all.
The same pattern.
Yeah. And it's just so, and I was like, of course they turned on Mariah. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that AEW fan, because listen, as much as we like that, as an AEW fan who is around AEW fans, there are just as shitty AEW fans as there are WWE because wrestling is a thing. And in wrestling, there are always going to be dumb, stupid fans who think like that.
It's silly. It's the like Star Trek, Star Wars. It's like you can like both.
Right.
What? Or you can like one and not the other, and it's okay for them to both exist.
If you want to take this way back, you don't have to choose between NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. You can be like me and my sister, and you can like them both. And you can like 98 Degrees too. But you can hate LFO because they suck.
And Nickelback too. Screw them.
Them too. They're not boy bands, but yes, also them.
I know. I have to say that because I have a friend who we give out to because of his Nickelback thing. So.
Shout out to, I forgot to bring this up when we talked about Anarchy in the Arena. Shout out to Tony for the song choices that he selected for Anarchy in the Arena, because that was hilarious.
Yep.
Like the Young Bucks coming out like that, I just looked at them and I was like, they are so ridiculous, and I love them for it. Like, I just love that like he's reading the thing they had Justin Roberts read, then they come out dressed. I was like, how hot are they and how comfortable are they to have to wrestle in those clothes? I'm sure Brandon's wife probably made them as comfortable as they could be, but still. And then going into the I'm so excited, because that was briefly the Collision song for like 3 weeks. And then Kenny's like, you know what? All right, we'll make it work. And Swerve was just like, I don't like it, but we have business at hand. But then when Kenny just kicks it over into bodies, just bringing it back to like early 2000s, and just having the bodies like literally hit as they get to the line. And then I saw like you could clearly hear it picked up on camera, but then seeing the fans, that I saw like some fan videos of them, and the fan video, you can hear all the fans singing along and getting louder and louder. And it was just really perfect. And I loved that moment, and it was a lot of fun. And I was like, yeah, this is what AEW, this is, they talk about restoring the feeling. Like, this felt like 2019, early, like the first 1 or 2 years of AEW is what that felt like. And it was just a nice feeling, because sometimes we got away from that for a while. And it's nice to kind of be going back to that. And also, and I think I said it before, but on the call last week, but thank goodness Tony is listening about the tag team wrestling for doing that. But yes, so Brad says, you mean I can't like Elvis and the Beatles?
You can. It just turns out you can. You can like more than one thing at a time.
And if you don't like things,
you just don't have to worry about it.
You can keep on. There's this function called scrolling.
Yeah.
That lets you just keep on going. Like, you don't even have to comment or anything. Like,
you don't have to tell everyone you hate the Super Bowl and think it's stupid.
And listen, I fall into that trap because I
do too. I don't care about. I don't care about like movie awards or but that's okay because it's not my thing, and I know that people like it, and that's their thing. So
you can just get on with your life. And yes, clearly,
Holy
I know,
crap.
I guess in a little
you can
bit,
just mind your own damn beeswax.
I know that we kind of are, because we're on our podcast talking about the things we don't like, and I write about
but it is our podcast.
Things I don't like. And sometimes I write about the things I don't like. And yes, sometimes I fall into the occasion. I will tweet or post on social media like I hate. Like, I tweeted the other day, I hate the Frat House theme song. I can't stand it. I don't like it. I've hated it since they've been on RH. First of all, I just don't like the gimmick. I know these guys are doing the best they can with what they've been given. but I don't like the Frat House, and somebody told me you're not supposed to. Don't tell me what I'm, and I was like, I
know how it works.
I know, and I didn't respond because I know that that's not what they meant by it, and it's right. It's not worth it.
No, there's no sense in preaching to the converted.
Yes. But
there's or simpler. There's no arguing with stupid.
Yes. But yeah, again, we all do it because literally,
because we're all humans.
Yeah, we all do it. But for the most part, I try to be careful. I mean, there are things that I have started to, and I've just deleted them, and it's not worth it because I don't want to deal with the response from it.
Yeah, that's a big one too.
Yeah, I did. Venkin says the Frat House is that thing that was randomly before Dynamite. Yeah, it was. They wrestle on ROH. There is a similar frat group in Revolver that actually does it pretty well, but Preston Vance and Jack Jameson are too old to be hosting pledging parties. Cole Carter is nearly too old for that. Griff Garrison is like just on the verge of being too old. So the gimmick is not working for me. for on multiple levels. I good for them for getting a paycheck. I know they're doing the best they can with what they're given, but I do that gimmick is not for me, and I was not thrilled to see it on AEW television. And I know that they need trios. But yes, Brad says that I did see the clip of Myron Reed from PW Revolver. He was hurt. He took a really nasty bump. They called the match immediately. Wrestling Revolver did put out a statement. I saw it before bed, which is how I saw the statement actually before I saw the clip. They did say he went to the hospital. He is fine. He is okay, thankfully. But it was a very nasty bump and could have been way, way worse. He was he looked like he was knocked out from that dive that he did on the outside last night. So from what I've heard, he is okay. So hopefully he is. He doesn't have a concussion. And God, that crazy bump. Yeah, I don't know what the hell Kyle Fletcher was thinking with that move. Thank God Adam Cole's head did not hit that ring. And Kyle Fletcher is an incredible wrestler, and clearly people can make mistakes. I don't know if he just misjudged that spot. Maybe his vision was maybe somebody, I think it was maybe it was that he doesn't know his depth perception might be off. I don't know what that spot on Collision, not last night, but the episode before where they were doing the title match was just nasty. And I know Kyle didn't, Kyle's not a sloppy wrestler. And I know things happen, obviously, in wrestling. And just thankfully, especially with Adam Cole's injury history the last couple of years, I'm thankful that he apparently is not concussed. And also, speaking of, there was a really amazing women's no DQ match on Wednesday. And Harley and Anna both were injured, except the Harley injury was apparently a planned spot for her to take time off. And so that spot was pre-planned, but apparently the Anna Jay spot, from what I've not heard anything, or so I don't know if I assume that Anna Jay's injury was legitimate, clearly an accident. I don't think hers was storyline. I've only heard that Harley's was, but then I didn't read the comments because I don't care. But apparently Bully Ray was mad and said the match was very sloppy. I wonder if he changes his tune now that he knows that the Harley spot was pre-planned and was to get her off TV because of whatever.
That blowhard.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, exactly. Fernando says mistakes happen in wrestling. Wrestling may be scripted, but the risks are real. Yes, I go back to this comment that I heard from Paul White, 15 years ago, probably 20 at this point. He said you can't fake gravity. And I always go back to that. Yes, wrestling is predetermined, but it hurts like hell when you do these things. And yes, sometimes things just go wrong. I mean, look at what poor happened to Sky Blue. Just came back from an injury, and she was wrestling Sheeta of all people. And Sheeta is one of the safest people there is. And it was not, Benkin says if things go wrong, don't do the spot again. No, that some wrestlers take that as a challenge of, oh no, I got to redo it because I messed it up the first time. So thankfully, and then I guess, my make Beats said, I used to say that to people as a kid and would show them the Foley off the cell or Jeff Hardy ladder spot and be like, how is that fake, bro? Right.
Nope.
No, some of it is not fake. Some of it is very real.
Very, very
yeah,
real.
Venkin says he's seen that happen on Mina, and I don't want to see it again. I mean, there's been some nasty, brutal things, unfortunately, in the sport. And I was also, before we get out of here, I did not mention, because we got talking about all the other things. THEKLA debuted on Wednesday. Some people I have heard that had some mixed reactions, as in they liked the fact that she was so dominant, but then they were mad that they just went into the CMLL video and it was just kind of left it at that. They just kind of they didn't follow up. There was no follow up through it. They did announce on Collision last night that she will be in action on Wednesday. I'm assuming probably either a local person or somebody from ROH, most likely. Probably a squash for THEKLA, but at this point, that's probably what THEKLA should be doing, which that's kind of what Megan Bain was doing when she first came. But I thought I liked it. I like that she went after, because, you know, everybody's question is what happens to Jamie. Well, I think THEKLA going after Jamie is really smart. Jamie is high up, you know, in the women's division. She is the former champion, and she was just in the ON finale where she could have been the one to face Tony. And so I like that she is starting. She's not starting at the very, very top, as far as, obviously it's not like a Mercedes or a Tony, but it is somebody who is right at that level. And I think going after somebody of Jamie Hayter's caliber is really smart. For the people who are watching from Stardom, do Jamie and THEKLA, I know Jamie, I believe Jamie was gone from Stardom by the time THEKLA was there, so I don't believe there's any kind of crossover for them, I want to say. But I'm sure somebody in the comments. But I think Jamie was long gone by the time THEKLA came there, and they are talking about some injuries in the in the comments. That Rossi had no choice after the promo, and I like that because clearly the promo that they cut was obviously THEKLA's promo was in order to get fired so that she could leave and come to AEW. But I like that they mentioned it on AEW television. They said, they put in that comment, they're like, oh, she was just recently fired from for the things that she said. Actually, I realized that Vinkin must be talking. I think Vinkin's talking about something else, but I saw Rossi, and it wasn't Rossi. It was because she wasn't at Marigold. It was the guy the guy at Stardom's his last name's Okada, right? I believe so.
Now that Stardom is owned by New Japan.
But THEKLA, regardless, THEKLA cut a promo that caused her to get fired from Stardom in order for her to come to AEW. Yes, it is Taro Okada. Thank you. But I do like that AEW mentioned that. They're like, oh, she's here. She just got fired from this other company because of what she said to the boss. She beat him up. Like, yeah, they're like, she gotta go. So, and that already kind of makes her, okay, yes, they fired THEKLA after she was attacking him again. Yeah, so like that already sets this so I get what some people say about the THEKLA appearance, that maybe it wasn't enough for the build that it had, but I also think it kind of put her in this spot where she's dangerous. She just took out Jamie. She was fired from her last job because she physically attacked the boss twice. Like, so I feel like
Mitchell Jones.
Oh, that's
excellent.
Good.
That's good. That's credit.
I enjoy that.
Nice
yeah,
one.
It did give me Bray Wyatt vibes, and I know that's what she does. Is that she does that spider, which looks it's so rapid and like violent looking. It's really, really cool. Because unfortunately Stardom is just something I don't have time to watch, so I know little bits about THEKLA. I've seen like just the little bits of her, but I know that her being in AEW, like she's a huge get for them. And I think kind of for somebody who only vaguely knows about her, to see her in that spot, I thought that was a good way to debut her. Do you have any thoughts?
I mean, it was a little bit of me was like, they should have done the pay-per-view. And then I thought about it afterwards and was like, there was so much on the pay-per-view that it almost would have gotten lost in the shuffle if they had done it that way. So it did make a lot more sense once I started thinking about it. To have her have a special moment of her own on the after show, as opposed to, because I mean, that show was so packed, people were already, I mean, there was so much on there. I feel like that debut wouldn't have been a big enough debut to stand out on the Double or Nothing, whereas it stood out for the, after Double or Nothing show.
Right. And I think, and also because she went after Jamie, because obviously she wouldn't have been able to go after Jamie on the pay-per-view because that would have taken away from Mercedes' moment. Right. And so I do like that they waited until the Wednesday after, especially because we all knew THEKLA was coming. And so a lot of us thought, okay, it's happening at Double or Nothing. And so then when it didn't, we were like, okay, well, is it going to happen this Wednesday? And it did. It happened in that moment. And Brad says that he loved seeing her do that. She didn't do that while part of Hate. So we really are getting BDM, which if I remember correctly, because I saw Lyric talk about it. That's Donna. It's Donna Del something. I'm sure somebody will correct me. I saw Lyric talking about it, and Brad says very good news. And Lyric said the same thing, that while she liked Hate, she hoped we were getting the DDM version of THEKLA, which seems like maybe that's what we were doing here. And Crash said yes. WTF tease moment for fans who haven't seen THEKLA before. Agreed. And ways that there's many ways that they could have introduced it. Thank you. I remembered before I said it. Yes, Donna Del Mondo. Thank you. That was the faction that she was in prior to being in Hate. And then from what I hear, some people enjoyed that version of THEKLA better. And Maria says her and Jamie are going to have a very good rivalry. I think so too. Women of the World is what Venkat. I'm not sure what this is in reference to. I assume it's something Stardom related, I believe. Yes, I'm excited to see what they do with THEKLA, and I think if you're losing somebody, thank you. That's the translation. Donna Del Mondo means women of the world. Is what she said. Thank you. I knew Del Mondo meant of the world, but yes. Okay. Thank you.
That's perfect.
Appreciate that. See, this is why we crowdsource.
Oh, we love you guys.
On these things. But yeah, and I think that so if you're losing somebody like a Mariah May, who has been integral to your women's story, your women's scene for 2 years, having somebody of THEKLA's stature, from the little I know about her, not that she is a replacement for Mariah, but that you were filling in that gap. And you were putting in, and then you've got Mina, who has officially signed with AEW. And I think that I really enjoy Mina. I'm really excited to see what she does here. The stuff with Tony was fun. I want to see because I think she's somebody who has definitely bet on herself, and she knew that at her age, she's 37. She knew that in Japan that was basically, she couldn't go if she was gonna go, it had to be now. So I hope that pays off for her as well. So I think Mina and THEKLA are really good women to have in this women's division. And Brad says THEKLA has a U.S. American charisma. She's gonna do great. Not the same as Mina's live show charisma, as Dave says. Vinkin says that HATE is an acronym for harass, abuse, terrorize, eradicate. That's actually pretty damn cool for what they were doing. Vinkin says some Stardom unit names have a meaning behind them and some don't. That makes sense. Yeah. This chat is fire. We love this chat. We are so glad that you guys are here every week. And then again, as we say all the time, even if you are not participating in the chat and you're just watching, we appreciate you just as much. But we are very glad that we have people in the chat who can help us fill in these gaps. Or help us remember things, because so many things happen in wrestling. Sometimes it's hard to remember. I have to have them come help me with things all the time, and I appreciate it. And so I guess before we let you, thank you. First of all, the stream has been very long, and so we appreciate you, whether you've been here the whole time, you've caught up here and there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We really,
that's really nice.
Truly,
thank you.
It
means a lot.
Truly, that does mean a lot to us. Thank you so much. So make sure that you do follow Fight Game Media on Twitter. They are on Blue Sky. Subscribe to our channel, because besides us, obviously talking about the wrestling we watch, there is on Wednesdays after Dynamite, there's the Dynamite show. Thursdays is, speaking of Strong Style for the New Japan fans. There's also Garrett has various shows that he does here. We obviously do our pre show. There's also a post pay-per-view show. There's also, and then if you listen to audio, so not the YouTube version, but there's audio version. There's the Wrap, which is about all things WWE. There is Scott Edwards with all things Joshi, with his 5-star Joshi show. There's a ton. If you want to know about Joshi, that's your guy. But luckily for us, we have Vinkin and Brad, and
yes,
that can help us out and help us fill in those gaps. So we appreciate that. Thank you. We appreciate that.
You guys are awesome. Thank you. It's really, really great to have you here.
Thank you. We truly appreciate it.
We like doing this, and we like having. We're glad that you guys enjoy it too.
Yes, and I know some of you here are here later, and we tried to do 1 o'clock because it was, part of it is the American side of things, because when we debuted, we knew we would be going up against the NFL because we debuted in February, so the season was over, and we knew though that would get hard and we would be going up against the NFL on Sundays, and for people like me, baseball, a lot of times Braves games are on at 1 o'clock, and so we appreciate, and if you don't watch live and you watch when it fits, we appreciate that. Thank you guys all so much. Like, truly, we really do appreciate it. Otherwise, Mel and I enjoy each other's company, but we would just be talking to ourselves every week.
It's true. We appreciate it.
Yes. Crush, that's no counter programming on Power.
It's true. And we're tariff free.
We are tariff free. We're tariff free and no
100% tariff free. Sorry, everyone's using that as a branding thing now.
Yeah,
so I just figured I'd toss it in there.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So yes, thank you for hanging out with us, and we'll be back next week, and maybe in the coming weeks we are working on getting some more guests lined up for you. Again, thank you to BJ for taking the time to be with us. He is always a great person to talk to in general, but especially about this stuff, because while I do have a journalism background, this is what he does IRL for his real life, is going through these cases and things like this. So he has a ton more information, and I enjoy talking to him about these things to kind of explain things for us. So I got that reference. I got that reference.
I understood that joke. Just keep it trending on Twitter. Maybe it'll get to him.
Maybe.
Anyway. All right. For Really Real, you guys have a great week. We really appreciate you. Bye.